SeeJeanty, we are live, Haiti Biz news show. And unfortunately, this episode, what we're doing today isn't something that I would have thought in a million years. You hear me? A million years I would have been on to come and discuss with you this topic. It's mind blowing. This is a special edition of the assassination of Jovenel Moise. All right. This episode is going to be a lot different from how we usually do things. In fact, we're going to actually try something brand spanking new. We're actually going to try to get some folks towards the end of this on. We're going to have some conversations with folks on the stream here. So stay tuned. We're going to, we have a lot to talk about. Per usual, you already know I have to, get some things in the background set up here. It's a one-man show on Sundays here. But wow, this episode, special edition, the assassination of Jovenel Moise. We'll be right back. All right, we are live. We are live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We are live on Twitter, Periscope. We're live on Instagram. And in fact, I got to get my TikTok game up. Got to get on TikTok, get into some TikTok lives. We are live on as many platforms as we can be. Today is 11th of July, and I guess we are in a BCAD situation. Last time I spoke to you, we were in a pre-assassination of president era, and today we are in a post-assassination president era, and we're doing a special edition. I have a few new followers. Of course, we're up to 16,000 YouTube subscribers. Hello to the new followers on YouTube, and we jumped about 2,000 followers on IG this week. So hello to some of the newer folks who may just now be getting familiar with what we have going on here. We've been at it for a full 2-3 years and doing this sort of stuff, showing a different perspective of Haiti from a tech perspective, and showing Haiti is a lot more complex than what the media has allowed you to believe. And so welcome. It's about time you found us. We've been at it. But it's never too late. Pull the seat, join the community. And we have a conversation to have here today. Usually Haiti Biz News is focused on economic news. We're focused on business news. We're focused on happenings. I mean, we try to skirt around politics as much as we can, minus the fact that politics is so, pervasive in Haiti. It affects so much of what someone can try to do in Haiti. So we usually, brush against it as much as we have to, depending on some sort of new decree or something that's happening. But obviously today we're not gonna do the usual. Actually, in fact, that's gonna be next Sunday. I do encourage you folks to show up next Sunday, and we'll be back to our usual show, and where we just we do what I just mentioned. This episode is going to be exclusively focused on what we know so far on the assassination of Jovenel Moise, and trying to bring those facts to you guys, and that's where we're going to keep it. We're not looking to theorize. I'm sorry if you guys are looking for sensationalisms, right? SeeJeanty's never been that, never will be that. So I guess you can go ahead and leave now. I'm sure there's plenty of talking heads right now on the internet who are saying the CIA did it, saying the Dominicans did it, right? Bringing in Bijou and a bunch of other big names to say that they did it. We're here to talk about those facts today, as of the 11th of July. And of course, even next week, we'll brush against this story again, just because, again, it's an incredible story, and the implications are going to be long lasting for quite some time. But this episode is dedicated to, and on top of that, I do encourage you guys to stick around this conversation after this conversation is formally over on my side, because I'm going to try to do something a little different this time. I'm going to try to bring folks onto, by the way, those who are on Instagram, just know if you go to YouTube SeeJeanty and you go to Facebook SeeJeanty, you'll get another live experience here. And what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to bring people onto the live on YouTube and have a conversation, with them. I'm going to allow this is the first time I'm doing it. Allow folks to come on. You can have your video on, you can have your audio on, ask a question, as it pertains to what is happening. Given if I don't cover it and what I'm about to cover today, I welcome you guys to come on, ask your question, and then I'll talk about it, right? It's something I want to try a little different, given the interesting situation we are in general here, right? Just real quick, for the folks who are new here, I just want to hit some top of the hour points. Folks who know who knows the agenda is about know what the usual spiel I have to say. Premier parti, c'est un parti qui est en créole, et comme toujours, et puis gros ba m'entendre c'est pour qui ça on nèg qui a parlé sur Haïti côte créole là. C'est pas créole, c'est pas haïtien, il nécessité que seul langage qu'on a parlé sur Haïti, c'est créole. Comme disons, mais là, ma rapide parce qu'il y a plus de monde là, peut-être qui créole pas trop en forme. Ma prêter là, mon capitaine le langage, mon capitaine me parle dans le moment, qui a dit même moi même créole pas trop en forme. Et c'est que nous avons assez côté pour nous recevoir l'information et en créole ou bien Fernando live, ok, ou bien Guy Wewe, ok, ou bien parfois ou bien Johnson Napoléon, ok, ou bien Kat Pedri, ok, ou bien Edzer et Emile par exemple. Nous avons Chupotai Lakai, nous avons Radio Métropole, ok, nous avons tout AM la station radio, on doit attendre là si c'est Pennsylvania, si c'est Floride, si c'est New York. Et nous avons trois côtés pour recevoir information en créole. Dis-moi un côté, ça m'a le fait là. Dis-moi un côté qui pour joindre information en Haïti en anglais. Dis-moi un côté, je ne vais pas faire ça dans le créole. J'aime pour profiter de faire 2 et 3 ans sur live, après l'engagement. J'aime bien content, mais quand ça a existé sur SeeJeanty parce qu'il y a un manque côté monde quand je recevoir l'information internationalement parce qu'il faut connaître anglais, c'est le langage international, ok? Et nous faisons comme ça pour tout le monde qui comprend parce que quand quitter ça, information ça, on a mis France et TV5, pour qu'il nomme CNN, pour qu'il nomme Miami Herald, pour qu'il nomme Vice News. Bon, pour devez ça va aller parce qu'il va y avoir un espoir qui est-ce qui t'a venu à bon sens si c'est celle perspective ça y joue c'est en anglais mais combien de fois on entend nous-mêmes qui a critiqué qui m'a fait émission en anglais qui nous à l'autre bord vous dit ah mon cher on va parler sur Haïti nous nécessité que langue c'est créole non nous accepter nous manger le goût c'est sous jour mais nèg pas qui là Haïti c'est là m'a pas là côté Pétionville dans moment là on va permettre moi-même pour avoir une explication du monde dans sa capacité de pays. Ah, pas faire ça. Ça méchant, pas faire ça. Et en plus, comme nous avons un canal qui est SeeJeanty en créole. OK? Et ma blague link là, dans ce moment-là, sur YouTube et Facebook. Et je recommande, nous ne sommes pas comme ça. Nous mettons à l'autre boîte, tout le monde me fait. Effectivement, tout le monde me fait. Et ce qui pas émission live, et c'est en anglais, excusez-moi, on fait une version en créole. So, moun qui a cherché créole là, many, ou gagnent devant, many, abonné, ok, il y a 700 moun qui abonné déjà, il va égal 16 000 moun. So, tout le monde qui a demandé créole là, many, c'est votre bol lié, ok. So, c'est là m'a prêté, ce créole là, si je devais faire en créole, je devais faire, mais simplement mission en plus gros. Mission, c'est que nous avons besoin de monde comprendre ça qu'a fait dans le pays a fait forcer nous qui bat l'île, nous pas quitter mais l'autre monde qui a vendu ça image propre par yo, ça yo voulait voyer parce qu'il y a intérêt par yo. Vous comprenez? Il y a une ONG qui a dépend sur mauvaise image d'Haïti. Il y a un sensationnisme audience qui a cherché. Vous comprenez? So, quittez nous-mêmes là, c'est gentil. Bah nouvelle là. J'en dois faire là. OK? Merci. So, per usual, I had to take some time to explain what we got going on here in Creole. And one of the big things, of course, is that, why is this not in Creole? And I always have to take a quick second just to remind folks, I can hit that Creole if I need to. Okay, that's number one. You don't live in Haiti without being very well versed in your Creole. That's number two. And number three, I have to explain, folks, that the reason why we're here is to give information to the world, because there is no place in the world where folks can get information about what's happening in Haiti in English, right? So that's what that was, and thanks for bearing with me in the usual explanation. I did drop, again, we do have a SeeJeanty en Creole, so for folks who do want to get information and all the different media things we do produce in just pure Creole, you do have access to that channel. I do encourage you guys to go over there and follow that channel. Maybe eventually, whenever I have a zing of more time, which is incredibly limited, maybe I'll do a restream of the cast in Creole only. Perhaps that's just an idea I've been toying with recently. But if I do decide to do that, it will be on that channel over there. So go ahead and do subscribe, get the number count up, and maybe I'll consider it in earnest. There's some usual things I usually talk about afterwards. After this, usually I do mention I do have a book out, 101 Ways to Make Money in Haiti, lucrative business ideas, insightful success stories, interesting business opportunities for visionary entrepreneurs. Usually talk about that, go a little bit, but in this situation, I'm going to focus on the episode and what it pertains to. Usually I also talk about the SeeJeanty Action Group, where folks, even after we're not on, you can go to that Facebook group and share encouraging stories. Won't talk about that. And I also usually mention we have a private WhatsApp group that is an ecosystem of entrepreneurs and business folks who are like-minded, working hand in hand, many times hand in hand, but individually, a lot of them are in Haiti doing very progressive things, and I'm in there, and also an attorney, 25 plus years is in there, and it's a space where we can exchange ideas, discuss, and work together. And we have somewhere around 30 plus people in there, and you do provide a stipend to be in there. That stipend allows SeeJeanty to do what we do. We've been going out to the provinces and doing a lot of different things. We have a whole team behind me, even though today I'm just myself, but I do have a whole team of videographers and folks who work with me to get the content you guys have out. And that stipend of $20, by the way, per month, sort of a Patreon. I think of it as Patreon. It helps, keep the lights open and us moving forward and providing that content. I usually talk about that a little longer too, but I want to get to the meat and potatoes of this episode. But that is available. The private WhatsApp group is available as well. And I guess maybe towards the end of this, I'll drop those usual links that I usually provide at the top of the hour, because I do want to jump right into the meat and potatoes of what we have to talk about today. And let's jump into it. Let's jump right into the meat and sauce. We're not going to waste time. We want to jump right into the meat and sauce here. Let's jump into it. Let's talk about it. On Wednesday, I don't know. I think a lot of us can share stories about where we were. This is for Haitians everywhere. It was a 9/11 event. When I say 9/11, everyone remembers where they were on 9/11. Okay, I remember I was a freshman in high school. Okay, and just starting my day, and the next thing I know, I'm being called to a TV screen watching airplanes fly into the World Trade Center, and it's an impression that many years later, it's like yesterday. I can tell you as a Haitian, this assassination similarly has rocked the community, has rocked me. I remember I'm getting out of bed, and literally my wife, she says, they killed the president. And I go, what? I'm half asleep, by the way. And I go, man, just like, man. She goes, babe, no, I'm serious. And I go, what? And I just, my phone's right next to my bedside. So I instinctively reach over, pull it, and of course my place for go-to immediate news is Twitter, right? So I pull up my Twitter, I type in #Haiti real quick, and lo and behold, I'm seeing the thread filled with the assassination of President Moïse. And I go, wait a minute, no. And I get out of bed as I was laying, I sit up, right? And of course, right away, phone calls start coming in. Family members start calling in and say, hey, Chris, we're hearing the news, stay home. Chris, we're hearing the news, what are your thoughts? Like, what are my thoughts? Oh, I haven't even brushed my teeth yet. I'm still processing this, right? And literally and then immediately, instinctively, I also then go outside. I have a balcony that overlooks really much of Port-au-Prince, and I see and hear the commotion outside. You hear people conjugating, talking, the conversation, the shock, the community shock. It's you can look, and for the rest of that day, you can see, a visual of folks who, their faces just literally, trying to make sense. And the rest of that day was just that, folks trying to make sense. But most importantly, there was a fear, guys. There was a palpable taste. You can taste it. Thick fear for the first few hours of that day, when you didn't know what it was. And I'm just trying to bring you back. Before I get into the facts, let's get the emotions out real quick, right? Because we're emotional beings, and I think we all, felt an incredible. A lot of us potentially are still feeling that shock, right? And it's important to talk that out, right? And then of course, as the day goes on, and we find out more, I think the biggest paradigm changer for us was that, because understand, was that usually in Haiti, first off, in Haiti, we don't want to kill our presidents. Okay, we don't. The desire, when you see all these manifestations in the streets and burning tires, right? It's not to kill a president. It's to get him to leave power, right? Amba Jovenel, amba Preval, amba Aristide, right? It's to leave, for their power is to leave. They get on a plane and leave. Understand that. And usually the way it works is, when it's about to happen, everyone knows. I think some folks, and guys, if I'm bluffing, let me know. Guys and women, and men and women who were there during the Aristide era, let me know. You can, because I wasn't around. Here's what I understood. The Wednesday a coup d'etat was going to happen. Monday, everybody knew. Everybody knew. The military announced it. Hey, Wednesday, Aristide is leaving. Right? And especially in the tumultuous time in the early 90s, when it was like every other year there was a coup d'etat. Like, it would be announced, again, a day or two before, hey, the military has announced they're removing X from power. And everyone would stay home, right? And then, like clockwork, announcement would happen. Folks would go, they would take that person out of power. And then there would be a big press conference. The guy gets in front of the camera, whoever it is, and says, hey, yeah, guys, yeah, yeah. Listen, I took him out. We removed him because he was bad for the country. And trust me though, I'm the good guy. I'm here, and he's here until about a few months, and then he gets removed, right? But again, in each case, no one gets killed. No one gets murdered, right? Folks are still alive. They get on a plane, they go away. Okay, that has been the modus operandi that we have happened here. And now, to folks outside, that's instability. That's incorrect. Countries don't work that way. We get it. But today, this is worse. Today, murder, the assassination of the president. So that's why there's this fear, because this isn't the Haitian way. This is something else, right? This isn't the way Haitians do things, okay? Right? Even in our disorder, there's order in our disorder. There's rules to this disorder. And the life of a president is never touched. This time it was touched. And that gave fear, because that isn't how Haitians do things. So who was it? Couldn't be one of us. Or if it was one of us, and here's where it gets scary, if it was one of us, holy crap. Has our society devolved so much that is this where we are now? I know we had a year of kidnapping. We had a year of, a good amount of months of gang violence. We had even before, we had pay luck and the economy going down lower and lower each year, right? So I think that's where folks were in those initial hours. Oh my God, is the Haitian society and culture really where it is that we're now killing presidents? Holy! I think that, I'm just letting you guys know. I think a lot of you guys, right or wrong, let me know, we're feeling that. Like, what is this? Is this really where we are now? But then an important piece of information came out, right? Pretty relatively quickly when acting Prime Minister Claude Joseph came out and said, hey, here's what we believe. It was a group of gunmen and they spoke Spanish. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, hold on. Wait a minute. That changes the game now. Wait a minute. And then as time went on, hours were added on, we're getting video now. My WhatsApp's blowing up. I'm seeing video of really a platoon of mercenaries. Okay, is what they were. Obviously, if enough of their face were uncovered, you can see that, their complexion was not brown or black, right? You saw very clearly the complexion was of a whiter persuasion, a Latino, persuasion, right? And boom, just like that, slowly, first comprehension starts happening. Go, okay, wait a minute, hold on. Are you saying someone not Haitian came in and killed our president? Wait, hold on, wait a minute. And now you're saying we allowed this to happen, right? And now it's confusion to frustration to anger. Now it's, hold on, wait a minute. No. Whoa. Wait a minute, hold on. We allowed foreigners to come into our country and kill our president? And I think right now we're still at that sort of phase where we're still coming to terms with, and of course the next question you ask as well, the gunman isn't the provider of bullets, isn't the provider of the paycheck to encourage the person to go do it, right? And of course, that's the conversation. Honestly, I don't know. I'll be frank, and I'm about to start getting the facts in a minute, but I'll be frank. I don't know if we ever know. I hope we know. I don't know if we ever know, right? I mean, listen. You want to be do we know who killed JFK? Who really killed? I mean, we got theories, right? We got theories, but who really? I forget the name of the gunman. I forget his name, right? Of course, they caught him, and right away he was killed himself. But it's not about who pulled the trigger. It's about who coordinated, who financed, right? Will we ever know that? For Jeff, this is a sitting United States president. Okay, we don't know who really killed JFK. There's documentaries to this day, right? Now, I hope we find out who killed Jovenel. But are we ever really gonna know? I guess time will tell. I just wanted to put that out there, make sure you guys understood that, right? So that was the emotional context, how to get that out, right? We're gonna get to the facts, but just real quick, let me pause and real say, share this stream, guys. I have 191 folks jointly on YouTube, Facebook right now. Share this. Let's get this information out there. Let's see if we can push 250 onto the live here. I'm looking on IG. We got about 60 folks on IG. Let's see if we can share this out. Let's even get up to maybe 70, 80 folks on the live here. I haven't seen anyone talk about the facts in what we're talking about right now, right? So let's get this out to a few folks. Let's see if we can try to understand, connect the dots together, right? Let's share it and also hit that like button too. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, hit that like button too. All right, let's just do that real quick before I jump into it. All right, thanks in advance for getting the word out, hitting that button. Okay, so first and foremost, as I alluded to, but let me just clearly state, these are the facts. We're not going into the theory. Everything I'm telling you right now, right? Everything I'm telling you right now, okay, has been substantiated by eyewitness video. It's been substantiated by independent sources, right? These are the facts as we know it. Facts defined by, are they substantiated or not? By multiple sources, independent, corroborated. Okay? That is where we are. Okay? All right. So let's jump into it. Early Wednesday morning, time, it was anywhere between 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. Wednesday morning. Okay, Wednesday morning was the 7th of July. It was seen that a group of mercenaries, upwards of 26 mercenaries, sorry, 28 is the official count now. Initially was 26, 28 is the full count, okay? 28 mercenaries were seen slowly, methodically coming down the street of the residence of Jovenel Moise. Okay, 28. I keep saying 26, but when I say 26, no, I'm at 28. Okay. It was seen that they were on loudspeakers. First off, let me pause. Anyone who's been to Pele, where the president lives, there are police checkpoints throughout the entire way, from the very entrance to the very end. There's questions as it relates to how they were able to pass so freely. But we're gonna, let me do this. We're gonna divide this up into 3 sections, okay? Or these 2 sections. What we know, what we don't know, okay? All right. What we know and what we don't know, okay? Let's divide that into 2 sections. All right. So let me just stick to what we know, and I'll try not to mix and match, confuse you guys. Let's try to keep it clear. What we know. All right. Here's what we know. They were seen coming down the street, okay? They were on megaphones shouting, "This is a DEA operation." We have footage. We've seen it. We've heard it by now in a lot of different places. They were, and again, I remember when I posted this back on Wednesday morning, a good amount of the comments, I want to say 20-30% of the comments were like, "Do you really think they're DEA? DEA wouldn't do it." Listen, guys, reading comprehension is important. It's really important. Okay. Didn't say they were DEA. So what I wrote was they announced they were DEA. That's a difference. That's a difference. Okay. They announced they were DEA. They announced. No one is saying they were. Okay. But they announced. Okay. And that seems to have been a tactic to allow some of the guards that were placed there to not fight. They put their guns down and walked away. Now, of course, we can have a whole separate sidebar debate to ask ourselves, how is it that a foreign entity has grown so much in its power and capacity that they could, a connection of assumption could be made within the police that, oh, they're doing something, let's put our guns down. Or at the very least, even if that doesn't seem plausible, there's enough plausibility for us to say, well, that makes sense. The DA does have a lot of power in Haiti, right? But that's a whole sidebar. Let's stick to the facts, okay? So they were seen coming down that street, okay? They provided access. They were gotten access to to Jovenel's home, okay? What happens next is still being disputed, guys. Let's be clear. What's happened next is being disputed, okay? But again, this is a factual conversation. This is we're getting it from the official sources right now, and quite honestly, the most official source we have right now, what happened. I'm jumping ahead here, but just want to let you guys know, because again, this part can be controversial. The series of events that happens next, I already suspect folks are gonna in the comments say, "Hey, this is not what happened, Chris. Here's what happened." No, listen, I'm just telling you per corroborated sources, and the biggest corroborative source thus far is Martine Moïse herself. First Lady Martine Moïse herself has recovered enough. She did a authenticated statement on her Twitter where she said the mercenaries did it. Okay? So let me continue. Per what we understand, the mercenaries gain access to the president's home, tied up the maid, tied up the servants. Jovenel Moise's daughter was home. She ran and escaped. She hid and escaped during this event. Okay? So yes, that's hard. Hard to think about it. His daughter was home. Wow. Let's put that on a shelf and try to make sense of that a little later. But that's insane. Okay. They made access to the room of Jovenel Moise, and reports say that the door did have a degree of reinforcement. There was reports of a grenade blast, so it's understood that they blew up that door to gain access to it. Upon entering Jovenel Moise's bedroom, they fired multiple rounds. 12 rounds hit Jovenel Moise. 12. Let's count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not done. 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm out of fingers. 1, 2, 12 bullets into the president of Haiti. Let that settle in for a moment. I'm not going to go into any more details because the details are extremely gruesome. We're not here for that. But suffice to say, they're gruesome. Amongst the hail gunfire, Martin Moïse also had several bullets. It's unconfirmed. I have not been able to find sources that gave me an exact count of how many bullets First Lady Martin Moïse obtained, but there were multiple bullets of Martin Moïse. Multiple bullets. But she survived. It would be reported, the official story is that the daughter would find the body of her mother, and with assistance, wherever it was able to take her to the hospital. That is the official corroborative story. There's other versions out there, official corroborative story. Okay. At which point, after ending the president's life with 12 bullets, they left very calmly. There's video of this. Very calmly, very slowly, no rush. They get back in their car and they go home. When I say go home, like this is where the conspiracy theories honestly have full right to theorize. Honestly, I'm not faulting folks for theorizing right here, because listen, we grew up in the generation of Hollywood, okay? We grew up in the generation of Michael Bay movies, okay? There isn't a Michael Bay movie where this happens like this, where the president gets killed and folks don't immediately jump in a moving car and hightail it out. You know, there's an awaiting helicopter, there isn't a plane, you know, that folks get in. And these were supposedly 28 trained. Look how much trained I'm talking. I mean, some of these guys had U.S. highly specialized training, urban warfare training. Okay, they don't run away. In fact, they go back. A lot of them go back. Some of them were seen, you know, meandering towards Place Saint-Pierre, which is like at the very entrance of Route Kenskov. But a good amount of them went back home. They're staying in a place not too far away. This is where the conspiracy theories, I don't fault them. I don't say they're going too far when they're giving them the theories I'm hearing. We're not here to talk about that. But I will admit that is bizarre, and I'm bleeding into what we don't know, but that to me has something we just have to bring up right away. They get back in their cars, it was about 9 vehicles in total for 28 men, and they go back as if nothing happened of note, right? In total, let's talk about these mercenaries. In total, 26 were Colombian and 2 were Haitian American. 26 Colombians, 2 were Haitian American. Okay, you can ask when did they get into the country? They got to the country about February. Juth had made a Twitter post saying that they were hiring Colombian special forces to assist with the fighting the gang violence that was happening across the country, the gang violence and kidnapping that was happening across the country. And they were hired to come in to help with that situation. Okay. Since then, right? Since then, by the way, two Haitian Americans, both apparently, not fully corroborated, but there's a lot of indication this is true, strong indication this is true. Both worked for very strong opposition of Jovenel Moise. I don't want to mention names officially because, again, I haven't necessarily seen a LinkedIn profile that clearly stated either of them work for such and such. You see, uncorroborated, right? But that is going out in the ecosphere and has been reposted by reputable sources. But I'm still a little reluctant to share, right? Okay. Since then, right? So this happened. Remember, I said 2 to 5 p.m. I said p.m. Excuse me. 2 to 5 a.m. It wasn't until about 11 a.m. that finally the area where the Route Kenscoff that was officially sealed off. It wasn't until 11 a.m. That's almost 6 hours later, right? That the path. I mean, right away you would say, hey, right? In any other developed country, you seal off the crime scene the moment the first officer shows up. So 11 a.m. Okay. Finally, we have a perimeter being set. Okay. And it wasn't until about 2 p.m. that the order came out to actually just begin to arrest these mercenaries. The mercenaries that were, again, mostly staying home. At which point, for the next couple hours, it was something. Almost immediately, a handful of them got into a fight, a gunfight with the police. 3 were killed right there on the spot, and 2 were, and these are the Haitian Americans. 2 were immediately arrested. And those were the first 2 arrests, right? And then very quickly, many of them who were in that home started to disperse, go into the surrounding community. They were being rounded up by, the paysans, the folks, in Jalousie, and other quartiers populaires, right? The popular zones, right? They were trying to hide there. And most importantly, right? This goes to show you something. This is so important. This needs to be understood, that the common Haitian people tied them up, and guess what? Took them to the police. Tied them up and took them to the police. Okay, and because folks are so quick to make Haitians into barbarians, into the most vile creatures possible, right? That we're eating, they were zombies, we're doing voodoo on each other and just eating each other, right? But guess what? This incredibly heinous act, and trust me, if you've seen the videos yet, we're talking, there were thousands of people in this area. They're angry, trust me. I ain't saying they were pristine and clean. They got a couple punches in, I tell you. Excuse me, I tell you, they got a couple punches in, but they didn't kill them. They brought them to the authorities, right? And that's what gets missed about Haiti. Is that there's this image that we're just these animals. It's truly, that's not pinch around it, right? But yet we work together to capture these people and bring them to the authorities. That cannot be missed. I had to spend a moment on it, right? Because honestly, even amongst us Haitians, we're so quick and so fearful of each other, and so quick to throw each other out, right? I can't stress that enough. The paysans, the folks in the Bidonville, the folks who usually get the worst in terms of who Haitians are, tied them up and put them, and gave them to the police. Okay, all right. So as of right now, as of today, 17 are detained. 17 mercenaries have been detained, and of course, three have been killed, and 8 are currently still on the run. 8 are still currently on the run, right? And that's the official state of where we are, in general, right? That is the official state of where we are, right? They're still looking for the 8. Investigations are happening, right? FBI has been called in from the U.S. to come and help with the investigation. That's where we are. Anything else that you hear, minus those what I just gave you, is conjecture, it's theorizing, it's folks who don't know, who are creating information, sometimes purposely to mislead, sometimes naively, right? But everything else out of what I just said, okay, just now, those are the facts as we know it. We don't know anything else, okay? I want to make that clear. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned this, Martin Moïse was taken to the hospital, Bernard Mez, where she stabilized. After she stabilized, she got on a plane and she was taken to a trauma center hospital in South Florida, where she, again, has regained her consciousness. All reports have said that she's on the road to recovery, to the point where she gave a statement, which was put on her official Twitter page, where she confirmed that it was mercenaries that killed her husband. And I know a lot of folks don't want to believe it, but if I'm sorry, I'm going to have to believe the person who was in the home at the time when her husband died. And if she says the mercenaries did it, I know it's real fun. I know it's real fun to sit and type, spend half your day. I know it's real fun in Clubhouse, with a bunch of people talking in Clubhouse about theories and who did it and why they did it. I know it's taking a little air out your balloons, guys. I'm sorry. But if Martin Moïse said the mercenaries did it, until she comes out and says otherwise, that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I hope you rational thinkers also will. I'm not saying throw all your theories away, but you're going to have to put that theory in the #1 spot until you hear information otherwise. Okay? That's what I would advise you. Do what you want. It's not advice, it's just information. Okay? What we don't know, let's talk about that. What do we don't know? What we don't know, and that's usually the first things folks lead with, is why did they do it? We don't know that. We don't know it yet. Right? The security officers are coming out with versions of their story. I'm not going to share those versions yet because they're uncorroborated, right? They're unsubstantiated, okay? They aren't factual per how we define facts. And it's natural that they're going to come out with alternative stories to protect themselves, right? So we don't know why they did it. Time would give us evidence to why they did it, and based on that evidence, we can come to a conclusion, right? Let's try to remember how investigations work, okay? Who paid them? We don't know. Someone paid them. They're mercenaries. By definition, mercenaries do what they're paid. By definition. So if they do something, they were paid to do it. Who paid them to do it? We don't know. What we don't know, why did they not have an exit strategy? Why did they not have an exit? These are trained killers. Okay. And I'm pretty sure one of the first pages, first chapter in your training is how to get out of difficult situations. They didn't get out. As I mentioned, that's why I don't try to make any theorist conspiracy theorists uncomfortable because they're not wrong. That is a point of extreme contradiction. It doesn't make any sense, right? What is the involvement of the head of the Presidential Palace Guard, right? The head of the Presidential Palace Guard is a fellow by the name of Dimitri, I'm sure I'm saying his name wrong, Dimitri Herod. Dimitri Herod. I'm sorry, excuse me for butchering it, but it's Hearrd is what I have here written down, right? And he's the head of the Presidential Palace Guard. In fact, he is, again, the head of the Secret Service. And if there's any scenario where these guys are allowed to do what they did, you know, he is a key player in understanding how it happened, why it happened. He is the head of the Presidential Guard. He is the head of keeping President Moïse alive, even if totally innocent, which he may be. I'm not trying to say he is or isn't. This is a tremendous failure on his part. Arad, Messi Philip Charles, Dimitri Arad. Okay, I misplaced my R's there. That's why. Dimitri Arad. All right. Let me fix my notes here. Fix my notes. Merci beaucoup. Dimitri Arad. Okay. And many other conspiracy theories are focused on him right now. Right? There are many of them focused on him right now. But we don't know. We don't know. Right? But again, you know, if the folks, again, are not a single, here's the thing. Why was it that a single person guarding Jovenel Moise, the security, the people who are supposed to take a bullet? Now, guys, remember Reagan? I believe Reagan. Reagan got shot at. Remember, there was an assassination attempt on Reagan, right? And somebody jumped in front and took a bullet for him, right? That's their job. Their job. Someone should have also took a bullet. We're not saying it's impossible for the president to die, right? But the way they're supposed to work is someone jumps in front of the president to take the bullet. Not a single person was even, there wasn't even a little slap, even a bruise from anyone. Why? Why, from the very beginning to the very end, were they in a state of stand down? What? We don't know. These are the questions we don't know. These are the questions that are the jumu of conspiracy theories, right? Trying to make sense of those points. And honestly, I've shared a few of these stories amongst folks I know. Some of the ones that kind of fill the holes the best in terms of facts. You know, these usually good conspiracy theories, good fake news. You know, has a kernel, has an important big nugget of truth, and they circle fake news around it, right? And so these conspiracy theories have enough of these fact checkpoints, right, that make you go, oh, wow, that could be it. That's probably it, right? I'm not going to share these conspiracy theories. I'm sure you guys already read them already, right? But those are the points that really get at the heart of what makes of trying to conceptualize how this happened and why it happened. And I think as time goes on, when we get information on those parts, those are certain things we're going to come back and talk about. Okay, on future Haiti Biz, briefly at the top, right? So what's next here, right? Right now we have Claude Joseph, the Prime Minister, who was the outgoing Prime Minister, who is now the acting Prime Minister, right? And because we have, you know, per the amended 1987 Constitution, we have very clear rules about what happens next. But here's the problem: on every single direction of what could happen next, right? We have very large unknowns, right? Because officially, what's supposed to happen is a council of ministers headed by the acting the prime minister will become the acting, in fact, acting president, but we call him the acting prime minister, right? And this prime minister, sole job now is to immediately, hold elections to provide the next president, right? That's per the amended 1987 Constitution. Alternatively, Parliament could hold a National Assembly and then elect a acting president as well, whose role is to hold elections, right? And between between the Parliament meeting and voting the president, it would be the acting prime minister, and then once the Parliament votes acting president, then it's the acting president until new elections are done, are held, right? Excuse me. Right? So that's supposed to be the process, right? That's supposed to be the process. But on both counts, it's difficult because, first off, we don't have Parliament. Parliament, was dissolved, right, by the president. Only 10 active senators are part of Parliament. That's not enough for decorum, or quorum, right? Quorum. I always say decorum. Not enough for a quorum, right? And then the prime ministership is in a weird situation because 2 days before his assassination, Jovenel Moise came out and said that there's a new prime minister called Ariel Henry, right? But the situation with Ariel Henry is he wasn't officially sworn in yet. But most importantly, he didn't have his cabinet proposed yet. That usually comes out in a second decree or second announcement. He didn't have his cabinet set up yet, right? So while this was happening, Claude Joseph was still the functioning prime minister with his cabinet. And so when the president got assassinated, he had the infrastructure in place. He took over. And by the way, the international community has recognized Claude Joseph as the current acting head of state, FYI. However, Ariel Henry has already come out and said that no, he is the true acting prime minister. And depending how far they want to take this could certainly become a vacuum. On top of that, remember I just mentioned the Parliament didn't have enough people for a quorum. It doesn't matter to them. Senator Joseph Lambert has come out and said, hey, the rest of the 9 senators have voted me the provisional president. and so technically speaking, we have 3 people who are claiming to be the acting president right now, though only one's being recognized by the international community, which is Claude Joseph, right? So that's where we are right now. Even in confusion, we're confused, right? Even, it's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling, right? Absolutely mind-boggling, right? The U.S., though was originally asked to send troops by Claude Joseph, the U.S. Is sending FBI and Department of Homeland Security to help investigate, help come down with what happened, a official version of what happened. And I'll be honest, left with just DCPG and PNH, I don't think, because their track record thus far has been pretty not good, to say it lightly. Okay, so the FBI and DHS coming in, again, I feel mixed emotions about this. First off, I'm happy we don't have an occupation on our hands. Both the UN and the United States have declined sending troops to Haiti as of the recording, right? So that is something that's good. Again, I don't care, your perspective. Here's my perspective. My perspective is, we are a sovereign country. We need to be able to wear. I see non-photo one says, hey, FBI couldn't have solved JFK. Touche. We're big boys. We're a big country, at least we should be. Sovereign country, right? We shouldn't have military troops on our soil, right? And that's just my perspective. So, but the mixed emotion is, again, now, do we want a foreign agency as well on our territory? I mean, that's what allowed the DEA to, at least someone to pretend to be the DEA, right? Because you're giving another agency authority over your country's institutions, right? So I get mixed emotions, but given the full spectrum of alternatives right now, on one side having a full military occupation of foreign entities, and the other side of not having any chance or any hope of getting to the answers, I think this is a middle, life is about compromise. This is an unfortunate compromise. I think we should consider, living with, as Haitian people or people concerned about Haiti, that the FBI potentially may help move the ball forward. I'm not saying they're going to solve it, but certainly they can be in a position to move the ball forward, right? Additionally, the USA has declared they're going to give, they've earmarked $5 million to help strengthen the PNH. $5 million to help strengthen the PNH, right? Additionally, the Colombian government is doing what a country does when its citizens are in trouble, whatever the circumstance. Especially since that 6 of these mercenaries were formerly a part of the Colombian military. 6 of them, including 2 that were killed. 6 are ex-military. So it's really almost a point of national priority to get their citizens out. They've expressed that they're working with the Haitian government to protect their citizens, lending Colombian security to help securize where they're being held, because they're concerned about, and rightly so, because, if you know anything about Haiti, it's every other week you hear a prison break-in happening. Concerned that the populace as whole may get frustrated and get in and try to get at these mercenaries before they have a proper day in court, right, and properly tried, right? So the Colombian government is moving to protect its citizens, right? Right. And so again, that's the prerogative. That's how nations work. I know we as Haitians aren't used to seeing a government protect citizens abroad, but Colombians are in their rights to try to protect their citizens. But certainly, if they did this, then first off, the investigation needs to complete, and then and only then, doesn't make sense for the Colombian government to do anything, right? So that's the component of what we don't know complete, right? There's a lot of factors happening, a lot of moving parts that are happening right now in the country that we're trying to make sense of, right? One thing I want to make sure isn't lost here today is Jovenel Moise, and let's spend a few minutes talking about Jovenel Moise, because at the end of the day, listen, go back through my archive of episodes. They're there online in perpetuity on the channel YouTube, SeeJeanty, and Facebook, and all those places, even on IG. Go back through the archives and you can see that, listen, there was a lot of things Jovenel Moise did I didn't like, but there was a lot of things he did that I did like, right? I always tried to keep it on what the guy was doing for the country. You know me, guys, I don't have a horse in the race except the big horse of Haiti, right? I am putting my money on advancing this country, and whoever can give it, I don't care if it's a socialist or if it's a capitalist, okay? I don't care if it's a libertarian or a communist. I don't care, okay? I just care about progress. I don't sit and try to, say I'm for Piachatica, I'm for Lavalas. I'm for any political group that can give tangible benefits to the country. One group wants to be more social and focus on hospitals and education. Great. Yes, do that. Another group wants to be more pro-business and more international investment, right? And more pro-business environment. Great. We need that too. I'm for you. Because I'm for anything that can advance Haiti for everyone, for the majority that are in poverty, for the sliver of middle class that we have, and the bourgeois. I'm sorry, I'm not in the camp that vilifies bourgeois. That's not, listen. In every society, you have bourgeois. Look at them. In America, we have bourgeois. But guess what? In those countries, the way we make the bourgeois work for you, we don't necessarily vilify them. What we do is we put tax incentives in place that makes because the bourgeois, listen, there isn't any bourgeois that doesn't behave in a way that drives their self-interest. I'm sorry. This is going to be a dirty little secret. I'm going to blow your minds. But the bourgeois in every country work for themselves, right? So what the trick is in functioning society is you trick the bourgeois to while they're serving themselves, they're serving the interest of the country and the people in it. It's crazy, right? This is a mind-blowing proposition I'm giving you guys, right? What does that mean, Chris? You look at the tax law of America, you give certain tax incentives for them to do things to help push the national interest. Real estate, building homes, massive tax write-offs, because one of the things America needs desperately are homes, right? And you look at energy exploration, there's massive tax incentives for folks to help explore and find oil domestically, right? There's massive incentive for the bourgeois to help in charity and hospitals and those sort of social collaborative events. That's why you can make a charity donation and it's almost a one-to-one on your tax liability, right? So in all those cases, situations, right? Not to mention there's incentives where if you create X amount of jobs, you can potentially become a citizen. So there's ways written within the tax law that makes the bourgeois still be absolutely selfish and for their interest. But while they're doing it, they're helping the country, right? And that's where we need to get to. And we win, right? Because in America, we don't vilify Elon Musk. We say, oh man, Elon Musk started here and now he's here, right? In America, we actually, our bourgeois, a lot of them, we put stories behind them. Bill Gates. I know Bill Gates, that's a touchy subject, but for a long time, Bill Gates had a very positive story about him in the popular ecosphere. You got someone who was here and now he's there. Steve Jobs was here, now he's there. You don't vilify the bourgeoisie in other countries. We say, hey, they've achieved something, good for them, and then the society is structured in a way to have the bourgeois work for them. So when I say I'm for everyone in the society, that's what I mean. I'm for the poor, I'm for the middle class, I'm for the bourgeois, I'm for everyone in the society, the boat that is called Haiti to win. Because I'm for Haiti to win, let's be clear, right? So let's talk about Jovenel Moise. Let's talk about it, right? Because that may be lost here. We had an individual, a person lose their life. Let's talk about who Jovenel Moise was, the person. I've never done this, of course, because I always avoid politics in the first place. But in this situation, that can be lost. Jovenel Moise was born June 26, 1968. Trou-de-Nord, in the northeast of Haiti. He was born, right? Grew up, 3 kids, married Martine Moïse. First business was Jomar Auto Parts in Port-au-Paix. Next business was a very small agricultural business, about 10 hectares. Ironically, growing bananas, right? That was his first cutting his teeth on that. 2001, he obtained a franchise from Culligan to produce water in the Northeast and the Northwest departments. In 2012, that's when he founded the dubious Agrigan SA, which I'm sure everyone by now is very familiar with. It was a company that was to have 1,000-hectare banana operations for export. The goal was to export this out annually to the world. They were starting with Germany. Only 2 containers would ever be sent abroad. The government gave incredible consensus to this company for it to be, to be successful. Listen, I got an essay myself. I'm booting up here. I would even one of these consensuses, for example, the tax-free access to that land that they had, 15-year exemption from income tax, custom duty waived for the purchase of capital equipment, a $6 million loan from the government to the new company, in addition to another $10 million from private investors, right? And again, President Moïse was the president of this company. He became famous because of it, but regrettably, only 2 containers. 2 containers isn't much. 2 containers of banana actually went out. Apparently, they had a disease that wiped out the stock, made the soil unable to create or germinate more. And actually, to this day, they've actually recently articles come out that they're working on watermelons now. Go figure, right? And at this peak, they promised 3,000 jobs, but only 600 jobs were created. You got to talk about that. We're talking about his track record. His track record was being a businessman, right? We had to talk about his business. The biggest business that got him to be president was Agitron, and Agitron didn't do so well, right? Afterwards, right? Started his political career officially in 2015 when he was a hand-picked successor for Michel Martelly for PHTK. 26 elections were inconclusive. No candidate had 50% of the vote, right? Second round elections could never be held. Second round elections, a lot of contention, a lot of folks saying it was fraudulent, and just a lot of accusations. The opposition didn't want to participate. Ultimately, and on top of that, the international community who funded the first election said, no, we're not going to fund a second election. And ultimately, President Moïse, pushed forward with the new election to appease his opposition members, who a lot of them didn't even participate in that one. But then, in any case, 55%. He won that election by 55%. And that was contentious. To this day, there's a lot of opposition that didn't accept the results of that election, right? And then from the outset, he was on an uphill battle. Listen, I don't know if you liked him or didn't like him, but I think anyone should recognize that on every step of the way, this man faced incredible opposition. Haiti's known for opposition, but we're talking folks who would not do even an inch of. I know we have it in America where we have bipartisanship and we have, Democrats and Republicans and very little bit mid-aisle conversations happening. But it's another thing when you have, one side and the other side is like they're not even participating in democracy, right? Nonetheless, though, officially when he was elected with majority PHTK in both houses. But the opposition, as I just mentioned, they were very anti-democratic, would do a tremendous amount of things to not allow certain bills, certain laws, certain actions that the president wanted to do to actually happen. But again, Jovenel isn't a victim here. Okay, let's just be honest. Jovenel wasn't a victim here, right? Because he did a lot of controversial things. For example, he tried to raise gas prices during a Brazil match, and I don't know if Brazil won that match, maybe it would have been a different outcome. But Brazil lost, and it led to the first pays lock, because one thing Haitians don't accept is they don't accept their gas prices going up, and they don't accept Brazil losing. Even though, as I'm talking to you today, Argentina beat Brazil last night, and there's a lot of young men outside, not as shell shocked as what just happened, but semi shell shocked, right? But that's a whole different conversation. I'm not looking to inspire any mal emotions here. for those who watched that game last night. So that ignited the first pay lock, right? And again, pay lock, for those who aren't familiar with the terms, it means country lockdown, right? Literally, the whole country was shut down, like, no movement between cities, just massive national protests, right? And there'll be several such protests that will happen. Not to mention, you had a large uptick in gang violence. A lot of folks claimed, make accusations that it was President Moïse himself who was a part of this and encouraged this. From a rational perspective, it never made sense to me of why a sitting president would want to destabilize his own country. It made more sense that the opposition was a part of this, but other folks were dead centered, saying no, he was the one, because if the gangs are out, then that means people are going to be too afraid to be in the streets protesting, right? And even in the case, if that's not true, Jovenel Moise, for the gangs that were pro him, he was very slow-handed in getting justice for the gangs that were anti, Jovenel, and didn't do much investigations, didn't do much proactivity in terms of protecting certain communities. There was a large massacre that happened, last Saline massacre that happened relatively early on in his administration. They were folks linked to him, in it. And it's hard for me to counter that argument that, though rationally we could say, hey, the president should never gain from stability. But in every circumstance where someone was found either arrested or, evidence of stability, like kidnapping, etc., it would be someone within PSTK or linked to his administration somehow, some way. Right? Again, this is not me it's not conspiracy theories, guys. It's on the internet. It's not on the internet, but it's on factual sources. That exists. I don't think I'm being. These are facts, right? But again, very controversial figure, and of course, I didn't even get to the other side, right? Where the Superior Judicial Council came out, and when Moïse was supposed to step down February 7th, 2021, he didn't. And the Superior Judicial Council, which is the highest court, ruled that his term ended 2021 per the Constitution, right? The write-up of the amended 1987 Constitution. He refused to step down, and went further by forcing 3 of those judges into retirement. Right? This happened. I didn't even get into the fact that he was moving to redo the Constitution, right, in a manner that many said it was completely abhorrent to the Constitution, right? The Constitution said it could not be partially modified by referendum, and if something could not be partially modified by referendum, and then it could not be wholly modified by referendum, right? Per the argument of what some people said, right? And those folks were saying he was becoming an authoritarian dictator. That's what was being lobbied against him, right? And I don't say I believe this or not, and not even mentioning the COVID era. Though some can argue he did relatively well in the beginning, to this day we don't have a vaccine here in the country yet, right? We still don't have a single vaccine shipment yet, right? In Haiti, there is no vaccination program yet, right? Though some things were announced, there's still nothing yet. Right? And again, there's other major economic factors that, have been rocked by during the Jovenel administration, for example. We've had the highest inflation rates since the fall of Duvalier. We've had consistent year-over-year negative growth rates, right? Going on almost 3 years since President Moïse took power, right? And of course, social instability between gang violence and kidnapping, right? Which I mentioned previously. And so, started by who the man was, but then ultimately, bled into his political, what has happened politically while he was in power, right? But here's the thing. Despite everything I just said, no matter how much you disliked him, it's abhorrent that he was assassinated, right? And I just mentioned the negatives, right? But of course, he did some positives. The prevention, the Marion Dam completed construction, which is a massive dam that's going to give tens of thousands of people, thousands to tens of thousands of people, electricity in the north, and additionally help thousands of hectares of farmland get irrigated water, right? I can personally tell you, someone who's been shooting in provincial towns the past few months, I've seen the development happening in there's towns like Anzavo, for example. In Anzavo, the first time in 200 plus years, they were getting, centralized electricity being installed in their city. And I think a lot of folks who had a chance to go to provincial towns during Jovenel's administration can similarly cite there's been countless of cities, countless of places that have gained electricity and access to electricity for the first time in their 200 plus year existence because of Jovenel Moise, right? It's kind of a changement, though controversial in and of itself, right? Added hundreds to thousands of kilometers of roads across different parts of the country, right? Right? And other things, completion of Jeremy Airport, that completed under, and I visited. Is it a international Road Star airport? No, but it's an airport. It's functioning. It's accepting flights, and it's being used more and more. No one seems to talk about it. He was installing solar panel setups and renewable energy throughout the country. In fact, one of the major generator turbines he was installing in Kafu was a natural gas turbine that was going to run on natural gas when it was fully installed. So he was doing a lot of things. For example, he shut down franchise, which was another big aspect that a lot of politicians were using to, inappropriately compete in the market. Right. So there was a lot. He cut big contracts with that were, by all accounts, independent accounts. I know the IDB and a lot of places who had knowledge of what these contracts were all said that these contracts were incredibly misaligned with what would help the country, right? So he did some good work, right? And I can tell you, he could talk. Though a lot of people said, he necessarily said things that, depending on who was he in front, he would say one thing and would say another. But I tell you what, he could say things. He could say things in a way that, man, you go through his archives. He didn't have a lot of archives, and he spoke a lot of truth. He said a lot of things that, we all have said, about the problems that exist in Haiti, right? I can tell you most of the time I'm watching him talk, I legitimately was like, man, I hope he's serious. I hope he's earnest. I hope he's telling the truth about what he's, and I always walked away watching what he did, his live streams, always a little bit more hopeful. I can tell you that. I didn't necessarily feel, from Creole to Matale, I didn't necessarily watch them and really feel this degree of hopefulness. At least short term, very briefly, I felt a little bit of hope, right? And I can tell he was very engaged with media. He was very engaged with, getting on television during, a lot of different instances, and behaving like a statesman. Behaving like a statesman. I still remember this day, Creole, after the earthquake. how he came on air and basically was, bemoaning, saying Haiti needs help, we can't do it. And whether or not it's true, as a statesman, as in your time of leadership, you want someone who will say, hey, we're in a tough spot. We're going to work together as Haitians. We're going to move forward. Yes, we need assistance, but Haitians are going to lead the way. I didn't get that when Earthquake Perval was in office. But I can tell you, whether or not you believed him, right? You believing him is one thing. But, the fact that he at least behaved as a statesman on camera, that is something I'm not going to knock him for, right? And so that's the amount of good I can say, relatively objectively, I could say about him. Again, I know I'm reading the comments here. I'm seeing some people who are like, no, Jovenel was, in my comments, Jovenel, he was fighting for the people and he was fighting against the upper echelons of class and right? And I have the others in the chat who are saying, no, he was in his own interests. I'm seeing some things that are very deleterious to him. Remember, guys, the man has passed away. He's not even in the ground yet. Let's be a little respectful. Let's try to do that. Let's do that at least wait until his funeral has at least happened before we start saying some of the things I'm seeing here about him. Let's be a little respectful. But wherever you may have been on the camp is on Jovenel, I just want to say that we have to move first and foremost that we're Haitians first. In fact, one of the messages I wrote that morning that got very viral was that even at this incredible time where we were rocked by this catastrophe, which is a shame. It's a man-made catastrophe. It's a catastrophe. We are the sum of how we react, how we decide to emote, right? We are the sum of individuals deciding how we behave, right? And I can tell you, right, it's more important than ever that however you decide to engage in Haiti, some of you believe that, we need charity, we need, to help the kids and help, folks who are starving, and help them with giving them things and assisting them. That's fine. I'm not here to knock. Haiti's a big elephant that, it's such a problematic thing. You can have both hands on something and you're not wrong. And someone else on the other side of the elephant holding a foot and saying, this is the elephant, and you're holding the trunk and you're saying, no, this is the elephant. No, you're both holding the elephant. Nothing's wrong with that, right? Nothing's wrong with that. Nothing, right? Because on the other side, you have some folks who are engaging with charity. Other folks are engaging in business, right? Other folks are saying, no, this is now more than ever, the fundamental issue of Haiti right now is an economic issue. A lot of folks are saying he was killed because he was trying to change the economic structure of the country, right? And a lot of us are saying, no, we need to double up on investing, double up on trying to improve and take ownership of our economy. A lot of us are saying that, right? But my point is that however we decide to engage, this is not a time, right, to necessarily give up. This is not the time to throw away in the towel, right? This is not the time, if you have a major investment you're going to do, to say, you know what, Chris, I just don't feel this is the right time. No, this is the right time, right? This is the right time to start up a charity. This is the right time to start up a business, because we are living with the side effects of not having stable economic environment, and we don't have the right economic actors in position in the higher echelons of this economy that think Haiti, that think Haitian first, right? that don't think the right way. They think I'm in it for myself. We're in it for me, and everyone else can nager pour sauter, which is a very common saying. Everyone knows who knows when I say that, right? If more than ever, this is the time if we were on doing 2x, we need a 4x the amount of involvement that we do in this country, not less. And of course, I usually in my DMs, in the comments, folks who don't know, folks who are usually just first time they brushed against SeeJeanty, you get the comment, but SeeJeanty, but the environment, the business climate, the security. How can you encourage, Chris? You're being irresponsible. How can you encourage investing in a country? Then you hear X, Y, and Z. I say, cool. Listen, cool. First off, I'm not telling you to invest. Don't. Stay home. Just watch it from the screen and keep scratching your head to, why doesn't the country change when you are deciding to stay on the sideline? And on top of that, you're not encouraging others to step in. That's one. So cool. Stay. Second, if you ever to fly into Haiti is not devoid of business. Well, that's a Kermit voice. Okay, I got it noted. It's not devoid of business. No, there's every single business type that you could find here. I'm not saying it's the same quality sometimes, but you'll find that iteration of business here as is over there, right? So that means that there are business people finding a way forward to succeed, right? And thus, the question thus needs to be, if they're finding a path forward to success, then why can't you? When you look around the business community and you see, and the biggest criticism, this isn't me saying this, usually you have folks who are saying, I walk into a store and I ask for the manager or the responsable, and it's someone else who's not Haitian, right? That's the biggest thing you hear. I see someone who's not Haitian and he's the owner of this business. He's in the leadership position of this business, right? But at the same time, you wouldn't invest in this country. They decided to invest in this country. Whether or not things are good, things are bad, they're investing in the country. They're putting money out. They're investing, they're buying land, right? They're putting businesses in place, right? So that's perhaps easily the most frustrating thing about being Haitian, is that you have such a large majority of people who are saying no. They want to wait for the red carpet treatment. They want to wait for that fairy tale government to come in. It's okay, baby. Give you a nice massage on the back. It's okay, baby. Big mama. I call it the big mama government. It's okay, baby. It's okay. Give a nice big plate of food. So we believe in you. You can do it. That's the only condition they'll invest in this country, right? Meanwhile, not realizing that the country's in the state it is in because we don't have investment, and we don't have investment for the right people, right? And when I say right people, it can be anybody, to be quite honest, right? You don't necessarily have to be Haitian, but you don't get the right people currently, because if we had the right people, we wouldn't be where we are right now. We wouldn't be where we are right now. So that's where my piece of sense come in. That's honestly the full update that I wanted to provide on this incredible event that has happened, that has really rocked and shook the world, truly. I have folks I'm working with in China, and they just messaged me and say, "Hey, Chris, we heard your president got assassinated. We're so sorry. We're with you." I'm like, whoa. I'm getting messages from across the world, contacts I haven't spoken to in ages, that are messaging me saying, "Chris, I hope you're okay. I hope things are going." And I appreciate those messages. By the way, if I haven't responded to you, I apologize. It's been crazy. I appreciate those messages, but this has been an incredible situation. So for those who are coming in now, this is a pre-recording. There's going to be a pre-recording. Sorry, there's going to be a recording, right? There's going to be recording. Everything I just said today is going to be recorded. You'll be able to, at the top of the hour, get the facts, right away. I didn't spend too much time, but I put the facts in right away. Next week, we'll be back on for the usual Haiti Biz News show. And with what we usually talk about, I do hope I see the same numbers that I've seen today. 40 plus folks on IG, 300 plus people on Facebook and YouTube. I do sure that hope we see those numbers again, because at the end of the day, we have to talk about those things. We wouldn't be where we are right now if we focused on the things we need to be focused on 364 days of the year. And that's the issue with Haiti. Haiti, we're so focused during the times of crisis, but we forget Haiti during the other times. And we're not doing the things during the other times to prevent the next crisis. And that is ultimately the curse of Haiti, is that it's forgotten until the next crisis. And there's not enough folks who are attacking it consistently. So let's change that. If you're watching this, maybe you're not subscribed yet. If you're on IG, go over to the YouTube channel, hit that big red button, hit subscribe. Because we don't have that problem here. SeeJeanty, we don't have that problem here. We're all Haiti all the time, 365 days a year. Showing all aspects. And by the way, I want to be very clear. This is not I'm not pushing a naive version of this country. I'm not painting sunshine and roses and green grass. No, this is a tough country to do business in. Sometimes it's even a tough country to live in, depending on what's happening. All right, I'm not here to paint anything Haiti more than it is. Haiti is what it is. But here's the thing: you don't know what Haiti is because you've been given a one-sided image of Haiti. And what we're here to do is provide a full, clear image of this country. And this country has more hope, more promise, more progression, more capacity to be great. And we will be great. We will get to that place where we deserve to be, right? We deserve to be the Wakanda of the Black world. We are the first Black republic. We defeated every major superpower to become independent. We defeated the French, we defeated the English, we defeated the Spanish. For 20 plus years, the country of Haiti was the entirety of Hispaniola. A lot of Dominicans don't like when I say that, right? But the reality is, for 20 plus years, Haiti was the entire island of Hispaniola. Okay, for 2 decades, Haiti was the entire island of Hispaniola. You can't take that away from us. That history, that's in my blood. You hear me? That's in the blood of the 12 million Haitians in this country, and the 8 to 4 plus million who are outside this country. You can't take that away from us. All right. Now, what we need to do is, in the modern era, in 2021, we have to get to the point of stability, economic progression, and a country that works for everyone. We have to get there. And we will not get there by folks in my comments, in my DMs, telling me, oh, I don't know if I should invest right now because, I don't have a red carpet treatment. Chicken or the egg, folks? What comes first? The investment that forces the government to behave, or a government that suddenly starts behaving All right, back. Sorry about that. I changed my internet connection. It's always so good to have multiple internet connections in your office. We are back. We're back. They cut them off. I like that. They cut them off. You're sick of too much truth. They cut them off. No, I'm back. I'm back, guys. I think guys should be hearing me fine. So this next thing I'm going to do is something I've never done before. But I'm going to do. I am going to invite. Let's aim for 10. We're gonna try to invite 10 people on stage onto the stream. Again, IG. Sorry, guys. It's gonna be on my YouTube. That's the main driver here. I'm gonna invite 10 people onto the stream. Okay, and so I'm gonna take a minute break because we've been on here for about an hour and 40 minutes. And I'm going to invite some folks onto the stream. We're gonna have a conversation. I want, and whatever you guys want to talk about, as it relates to this in particular. But if you want to bring some other questions on, you'll be more than welcome to. So I'm gonna end the IG stream. So the 32 plus folks who are on IG, go to YouTube, SeeJeanty, and go to Facebook, SeeJeanty, either one. And I'm gonna start bringing some folks on the screen and do have a conversation. All right, it's the first time I'm doing it. Thought in this special episode, let's try something different. All right, so again, I'm closing out on IG. Head over there, guys. All right, YouTube, SeeJeanty. All right, so I just closed down that. And guys, give me 1 minute. I'm gonna set up the infrastructure to allow you guys to come on stage. And I look forward to talking to about 10 of you guys really quick. All right, be right back. All right, so I got the infrastructure set up here, guys. So here's what we're gonna do. First time doing this, might be some bugs involved. Bear with me, okay? Bear with me. All right, I'm gonna give it a try. Let's see if it works this way. We'll try another way if it's a little too funny. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you an email. Okay, this email is SeeJeantyShare@gmail.com. Okay, SeeJeantyShare. All right, boom, just like that. SeeJeanty Share. What I want you to do is send me the question you want to ask on air. Okay, and depending on the question, if it looks good, I'll bring you on. You can ask it on air officially, and I'll give you a response. I'll give you a brief conversation on that one question. Remember, time is of the essence. Can I ask 2, 3, only one question? ask it on air, and then we'll give someone else a chance, and we'll have a bit something. Because again, this is something where reading text, I've done it, and it's great, and I appreciate everyone writing. But this is something where I really want to invite that personal connection. I really want to hear somebody's voice. Or if you want to put your video on, you can put it on, you can put it off, right? And you can ask that question, and we'll have a conversation. Again, I ask folks not to abuse this. I know it's the internet. I know it's only a matter of time if someone abuses it or comes on and does something inappropriate. I apologize in advance for anyone who's immature enough to do that. I do hope we have 10 mature people who really want to engage in a conversation. So I'm waiting for the email to come out. An email from someone. Again, I'm gonna type it in again. SeeJeanty@gmail.com. I want you to send that question to me, and I'll respond with an invite. It will be a link. You click that link, and it will bring you to. I use this app called StreamYard, and it will bring you to StreamYard, and then you can ask that question yourself, and everyone can hear, and you can be a part of it. All right. And I have a first email in, right? And let me go ahead and send the response to that person to get them in. We bring that in. All right. Boom. All right. So you should be getting. If you just sent something, you'll see it. You should be getting an invite link. Again, not everyone's going to get it. Questions are good. So I like this one question here. So this person should be coming up any moment, but I do welcome it. And again, it's tough times, guys. Tough times. I know. I'm humbled to been recognized for the work that I've been doing for a long time. I'm humbled that the community itself that we built here is starting to be recognized as a community of folks who are about it, who are about not just accepting the status quo, but really trying to do something to improve ourselves, in an appropriate manner, right? And again, I'm just encouraged by the amount of folks I've had a chance to meet who I am hopeful. When people ask, Chris, do you have hope, for what comes next? Do you have hope for who we may be, and where we're going, right? I have hope, for where we're going, because of the fact that I've met so many folks who are involved, who are doing great things, who hold the right perspective of how Haiti moves forward, right? So we do have one person on, and that's Sammy. Let me bring him on stage here. Sammy, what is going on, my brother? How are you? And that's Sammy.
What's up?
Good. Sammy, you want to bring down your sound, your reverb.
You hear me?
Okay, there you go. Now you're good. Now you're good. Sammy, you asked a very interesting question by email. Ask that question again.
Yes. So my thing is, it's sad what happened to President Moïse. So my question is, what do you think should happen next in Haiti? And do you think that the presidential election should take place on September 26th?
No problem. Should the elections occur, what should happen next? Man, well, I'll think about that. Actually, let me send another link. I saw another great question by email here. Bear with me. Let me send that out. Let's get this person in the back room waiting for us. What should happen next? It's something I haven't. I'll be honest. I haven't had time to even sort of grasp where we should go next. Realistically, I don't see how elections happen. I think the country is in a state of shock. There is a large space of insecurity currently in the country. Even with Jovenel here, I had a question mark in terms of how he was going to not only do a referendum and hold elections at the same time. And if his referendum passed, because remember, his referendum doesn't have senators, right? Only deputies, right? So how exactly would that work if we voted senators under the 1987 Constitution, referendum passed? Do those senators we just null and void their selection? How does that? Do they become super deputies in a way? So even in the situation where we live in the pre-assassinated world of Jovenel, right? How do we move forward? I had a question. So especially now, I have more questions in terms of how to move forward. But to answer your question, I don't see how we can hold elections in September. I don't see it. Realistically, they're going to be at least postponed for another few months. And I'm not sure how long that postponement is going to work, because again, for example, just last night, Barbecue made an announcement that he was going to lead a war against who he thought were the lead actors, right? And made a declaration that the violence continues for him and his gang and his group. So it's anyone's guess. It's a great question, and I hope I answered your question. Basically, the short of it is, I would like for election, because again, I'm for stability. The sooner we can move out of this phase of not having parliament, not having a president, not even having a prime minister who is verified or confirmed the way the Constitution says we're supposed to, the better it is for our democracy, for our government, for our country. So I want it to happen. But can it happen realistically? That's anyone's guess. So.
All right, man. Appreciate it.
No problem, Sammy. And again, Sammy's someone, by the way, I know I met offline before. He's doing some great work. Are you still with the NAAA?
NAAHP.
Yeah, you still with them?
Yep, still with them.
No problem. Give him a quick plug real quick while I'm waiting for the next guy to come on screen. Give him a quick plug, Sammy.
Okay, so NAAHP stands for the National Advancements for Haitian American Professionals. Basically, at aahp.org. Check it out. Basically, we just want to, same thing as SeeJeanty. We have the same vision. We want to move Haiti forward, and what we try to do is we try to come up with solutions from the diaspora. But we also have partnerships with a lot of Haitian organizations in Haiti. So please check us out. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, NAAHP.
All right. Boom. All right. Sammy, thanks so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Keep pushing. All right.
Yes, sir.
Peace. All right. And I lots of emails are coming in by email. And I sent out a few links. We're waiting for folks to come on stage here. Make sure, yeah, that's the one. So yeah, thanks for Sammy. That was great. It was cool to have a real live person ask a question. Feel free again. Let me drop the email in one more time for folks who maybe just came in. What we talked about, this was a special edition of Haiti Biz News. This episode was about the assassination of Jovenel Moise. When I end the stream, you are going to be able to see it from the beginning, and you see the facts that we shared and represented, right? So make sure to what's to say, if you came in late, rewatch it, right? Right now we're at the phase where we're just bringing folks on and doing this for the first time. I've always read comments, but I have a great community here, and I'd love to get some folks on stage. I'm aiming for about 10 people. 10 people asking one question, and I'll answer it. All right. And so far, a lot of these questions I see they're great questions. So we have someone who just came on. Let me bring her on stage. Marlene Silver.
Hi.
Marlene Silver. Hello. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you? I'm so
doing
happy
very
to
well.
be brought on.
Listen. I'm happy for your question. Happy that you watched. Hope you watched a good chunk of the episode, and happy to have your question. Now, I saw what it was an email, but please re-ask that question, and we'll talk about it.
Okay, so my question was, I wish I could go back, but basically it was me asking about the experience for Haitian Americans and what will that be like now, knowing that 2 Haitian Americans were allegedly identified in the assassination or complicated in the assassination of the president, because the past few days, the community, there's been, it's a joke. People have been playing around and saying, well, Haitian Americans, you guys better brush up on your Creole now. But honestly, like, that kind of vibe is already there in Haiti, where if you're Haitian American, they call you blanc and stuff. But now I think it's going to be like, in my opinion, it's going to be more aggressive, even though it was kind of aggressive before. So what are your thoughts on that? Because even from when I was little, honestly, there's been like this thing against Diaspora. But I think before the assassination, I think we were at a point where I personally feel like Haitian natural born Haitians were welcoming the Diaspora. And now I think this has brought us back tenfold. So I don't know. Like, honestly, the true concern, honestly, is really more about natural Haiti. Like, everybody who's been born in natural Haiti, like, that's my concern, honestly. Like, okay. I want us to get to the point where everybody who's born in Haiti can come together as a collective, as a nation, to do better than what's going on. But selfishly, I'm thinking about, dang, I don't know if I can really go back. I've only been once. How can I go back? I don't know.
Okay. All right. So thanks for that question. Thanks for really laying out why you're asking, your perspective on it. I've heard this premise of there is a us versus them, Haitian diaspora, Haitian native.
Yeah.
And I've heard from the diaspora that it can exist. I'm not discounting anyone's experience. Yes, your experience is a valid experience. I can never take that away from you if you visited and that's what happened to you. But what I can say is my experience has been someone who's been here for years. Even before, I would always fly in with my parents growing as a child. And even before I moved to Haiti full time, I've been here full time for 5 years now. But even before, I really almost for a year, I would come back every month and try to relearn my culture and relearn, what it is to be Haitian per the standards of the island. Because if you leave somewhere, it's just different. Naturally, it's a different culture. And I can say I've never felt that. In fact, I felt the opposite. I felt that coming in as diaspora, you're viewed first and foremost as someone with resources. Even if you're someone working at McDonald's busting your butt, I tell you what, you're 5 times richer than most, like a lot of people in Haiti. So that's number one. So rightly or wrongly, you're viewed as someone with resources, and you're valued for that. Secondly, you're valued generally because you're someone who is usually perceived as educated, more worldly as well. I know there's family dynamics involved with a lot of Haitians where, for different reasons, some families tend to have more adversarial dynamics. I say that's yours, but I'm just saying there's families like that. And so when you do come to Haiti, you don't necessarily feel so welcomed. You try to, there's some, where is this coming from? And sometimes it's ascertained, well, maybe because I'm diaspora, or maybe just this, you and your dad and your uncle had a beef a while back and they never settled it, right? And you're fortunately getting some of that feeling and emotion. and sometimes legitimately, there's someone comes in for the first time and there's a bad experience that happens, right? In an island of 12 million people, not everyone's gonna be a saint. There are gonna be non-saints, So, but I can say I haven't experienced that. The majority of Haitians that I've met have not experienced that. They've experienced generally welcomingness. I can tell you being called a blunt is annoying, right? Especially, listen, Haiti, Haitian, right? So I don't, I left when I was 3, but I've been, I got one tattoo on me right here on my arm, and it says the Union for that force, right? And so, who are you to call me a blanc when I feel I'm the most Haitian there is, right? Right? So I get it, but minus that, I've never felt that. And I can tell you, to answer the core of your question, though, how do you feel there's going to be a change for Haitian Americans, Haitian diaspora? I don't think so. In fact, I think more than ever, there has to be a realization that we're by ourselves. The UN isn't coming to save us. The United States, they're not bringing their military. They're not coming to save us, right? I think more than ever, we as Haitians have to save ourselves. And it's recognized that there is no betterment, there's no improvement for Haiti without the diaspora, without, because we can't, remember, don't forget, 80% of our educated national selves are abroad. They're outside of the country. And we are the most educated population, where most of our educated population is outside the country, right? The only one who's second to us is Venezuela, and they've been rocked with massive, issues related to their, what's happening with their deflation, et cetera, right? Yeah. So, I guess we can agree to disagree. I'm not here to change your mind, Marlene. You have a right to think what you think. I'm not here to change it. I'm just saying my perspective.
I had a positive experience there. I'm not gonna lie. I stayed there for almost 2 weeks. I had a positive. It was a positive experience. I'm not gonna discount, like you said. It was just that one person that said it. We were at the airport, and I was like, already. But
what did he say? What did he or she say? I didn't catch that. What did he or she say?
What did they say? He said it was an older man. Tall. He said it under his breath. He said, "Gade blanc yo," and it's me and my 4 brothers. And we was like, okay, like.
But what happened just before then? Like, what was he checking your bags or what?
The airplane, and our cousin who worked at the airport put us in a room. Mm-hmm. So put us in a room. He was in there, and I guess he just automatically assumed that we came off the plane. And it's the whole thing. They say that as soon as Haitian Americans get off the plane, the native Natal can tell automatically who's who. Okay, that's fine, but I mean, I'm not so totally offended. It's not. I mean, I stayed and I want to go back. It's not gonna stop me from coming back. It's not. What will stop me from coming back is safety issues, but that's always an ongoing conversation about. Who's the safest? America's not the safest. I'll tell you that. I'm drilling into my boys to be safe here versus being safe in Haiti, and I'm in America. So that's not neither here or there. But that experience is not going to stop me from coming. I just want to make sure that when I get there, when I come back, like I'm not going to be scared. I want to be prepared. So that's my question, and I guess a piggyback, not to take too much time. This is my last one. This question is important, the one that I asked about Haitian American experience, because I can't let go of Haiti. I wasn't born there. I was born here. I cannot, no matter what happens, it's in my spirit. And so a lot of the time when I ask questions and I'm talking to people, I'm online a lot, I am very sumun. I want to know everything and I want to help. So it's been said by some that Haitian Americans need to stay in their lane now, and that maybe we should just mind our business when it comes to this stuff. I want to know what your thoughts are. I mean, I think I already know what you're gonna say, but I want you to say it to confirm for the folks that are watching that Haiti needs our help. Like, that's what I really think. And like you said, you know, we need to help as Haitian Americans.
So I'm answer it while I take you off air. That's 2 questions. So I'm gonna take you off air. But then thank you, Marlon. Thank you for coming on. Appreciate you. Keep watching. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And appreciate you. Okay. So great question. I think if I understood your question correctly, yeah, I believe we whether or not it doesn't matter what the perception on the other side is. I think it's important for us to engage for our reasons. Because for our reasons is we know Haiti needs us, and we need to. And at the end of the day, I think if more of us engaged and showed the Haitianites we're in it for them, we're in it for the betterment of the society as a whole, I think there wouldn't be any doubt. I think there wouldn't be a doubt in our minds because we would have seen that right away. It's a self-reciprocal, self-fulfilling, there's a word for it, cycle that allow that actions cause folks to predict what you're going to do next, right? And so again, I think if we do more good, Haitian natives will believe us to be good doers, right? And we'll start to feel, and whatever things we may be interpreting as negativity, I think will happen less, right? So thanks for that, Marlene. Great question. Let me bring someone else on. John Doe is going to come on real quick. John Doe will ask his question, and we'll get a response.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, John. Yeah, John Doe, I can hear you. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Okay. What's your question, man?
Before anything, I want to apologize to everyone on the live. I can't show my picture for the videos because, well, I just can't. But,
no problem. No one. I'm not asking anyone to. Don't worry.
All right.
I'm not asking anyone to. Go ahead.
So my question is, how is Haiti supposed to change when a certain group of people use their finances to finance coups, lobby U.S. government officials, pay gang members to kill demonstrators, buy government officials and presidents to do their agenda, and intimidate new business owners who are not in their circle?
Great question. And you know what? If someone had asked me that question about 4 years ago when I first came in, wide-eyed, naive, in a sense that we're all we're here to work. What do you mean? There's a echelon of folks who are doing these negative things. Yes, I'm you know what you're talking about. But I'll be over time living here, seeing how the country works, hearing it from people who are trustworthy, independent sources who have different or plugged in the different places across the socio-political ecosystem here in this country. And they all tell you stories not too far from what John Doe was telling you, that there is money being spent to push political agendas. There is very little regard to how the people execute those political ambitions, goals, outcomes. I've even had the chance to sit in private rooms with some of these people, okay? And the hairs on your hair will stand up if I tell you I've heard some things repeated in my presence that corroborate some of the strategies used. I'm not saying with John Doe, specifically John, but strategies in general that are, expressed. I've heard in my presence. And so the first part of what John Doe, I wanted to say, there is some truth to what John Doe said. I want to make that clear. Okay, and anyone in Haiti will tell you there's truth in what John Doe is saying. That's first off. right? Is it all true? You know, at the end of the day, you know, evidence, facts, you know, that's what I trade in. And a lot of these things, you know, you can't factually put down, right? That's just the definition of how these things move, right? So I just want to spend a second to say that. But to answer your question, how can Haiti move forward given that this happens, right? And I have to look at history. I have to look at other places that, you know, had very high degrees of corruption, of political intrigue by individual actors, and how did they get out of it? How did they come out and get out to the other side and have functioning or near functioning societies today, right? For example, I look at communist China, or China before communism, for example, right? It was Haiti. Had, you know, foreign interests that were forcing things upon this country. You have domestic interests who couldn't care less about that country. And you had a popular movement, right, that washed away, you know, what was there previously, right, and put in a system that, I mean, they did some wrong stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. China had the Great Migration that killed a lot of people, and then there was another mass one that created a tremendous famine as well. So there were some mistakes that killed millions, right? So let's not forget those, right? But there were, at least the country as a country, were given the capacity to make mistakes, and ultimately their people figured it out, right? And now they're in a much better place. And I don't know when Haiti will ever be given the chance to figure it out, right? You know, it's figuring it out. It's a messy process. It's a messy process, right? I don't know when we're going to give them the chance to figure it out, because the moment we try to figure it out, you have the OAS sending that delegations. You have CARICOM holding meetings. You have the core group, you know, sending memorandums. You have the United States, you know, the embassy member. We have the 4th largest embassy in America, in the world, here in Haiti, right? And that's for a reason, right? You know, you have Canada, you have France, you have all these actors who, the moment things start to get messy, you know, they step in and don't allow us Haitians to find a path forward amongst ourselves. Not only and worse, again, remember I just mentioned to Marlene, there is a predictive loop that happens where when things get a little messy, they come in. But then what happens is when things get messy, we expect, I say we Haitians here in Haiti, expect them to come in. And so we never really try to become adults, right? We are always waiting for Big Brother France or you know Uncle Sam to come in to save us from ourselves, and we never learn how to save ourselves, right? I don't know how that changes. I think right now, with the past 2 presidents we had in America, Trump could care less about Haiti. And then Biden, similarly, listen, Biden has been on record saying, listen, and you guys can Google it. This is, you know, it's on YouTube right now. Biden is on record saying, hey, he said, it's a terrible thing to say, but I don't care if Haiti fell in the middle of the water of the Caribbean Sea. It doesn't make a damn sense. It doesn't mean anything for a U.S. interest perspective. Haiti is absolutely irrelevant. That's what Biden, that's who is currently in the White House. That's what he said in the 90s. And I don't have any reason why he's changed his perspective. And thus far, from what I've seen in terms of his hands-offness with Haiti, as you compare it to like a Bill Clinton or a Hillary Clinton, I think he still holds that. But here's the thing, that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? Because it gives us room to figure it out ourselves, right? And part of figuring it out ourselves is, again, what do we do with these actors? Because here's the thing, John Doe, we all know who they are. We all know who they are. We know who they are. We know where they live. We know their businesses. We know everything about them. Haiti's a small town. You know, nothing is hidden from anyone. Okay? So the question is, over time, you know, how can we get them ultimately, hopefully, to do the right thing themselves? And if they don't, how do we, with the diaspora and the Haitian natives, how do we take the reins to finally move the country forward and not allow these negative influential activities and actions to engage our country? I don't know. That's a political answer. That's a very dangerous. That's a dangerous political set of scenarios. I can tell you, because as you saw with rest in peace, Jovenel Moise. For better or for worse, he was going against a lot of very powerful interests inside and outside the country. And if anything can be said, a message has been sent to the entire ecosystem of Haiti that says, hey, if you try to mess with how things are right now, this could be you. So I think, these are questions that are best discussed and worked offline, but they're important questions to ask. And I just gave you a few ideas. Ultimately, the fundamental answer is because there's more of us than them. It's hard for folks to understand. We have the power, despite they have the resources, but we have the power because we have more of us than them. And this really boils down to when is enough? When is enough of us decide to start finally truly working together, putting our resources together, because we put all our resources, even though they have 100, we have one, but there's 1,000 of us. We put our one together, we have 1,000, they have 100. How do we start working together, put our resources together, and finally start moving the country forward? That's ultimately the question. I don't know how long it's going to take, but eventually we're going to get it right. Thanks, John Doe. Well, you going to say something really quick?
Yeah, so another thing, just to be clear, like, for example, right, the interim prime minister called Joseph, he's actually in my family in a way, because I've known him since I was 10 years old. And I've seen the people he's been around with. So just to be clear, right, when Ice-T was president and everything, he was actually in some type of a campaign with Andre Apad. And during that time frame, not people would know this, but one of the gangs in City Soleil, Andre Apad actually paid, this gang member named Labanier to kill Lavala's family members. I mean, Lavala's demonstrators. So everyone knows that, Boulos and some other bourgeoisies actually helped fund Jovenel Moise's campaign to become president. However, when contracts came, government contracts, that's where, these bourgeoisies usually be fighting over. Now, there seems to be like a theory where I'm thinking like, okay, so if Jovenel is friends with, my uncle, and then, Jovenel starts working with Apad, and what was the other name? Hold on for a second.
What are the big names? What are the big names? Go on.
Yeah, Apad, Sharif Abdul, and this other one named Elaine Zurak. I don't know if I'm saying his name correct, but there's many more. So Regional Boulos is obviously mad that he's giving these contracts to the other bourgeoisies, because most people don't know that even though there's a whole bunch of them, there's certain cliques. The only time they come together is when one president is not in their interest at all. For example, like Ice-T, but to focus on Jovenel. So this whole issue of what's happening to Jovenel, a lot of people are saying that he was against all of them, but that's not the truth. He was against some of them, but he focused on one particular group. Now, he gave one of them like $18 million and more. So when that happens, and someone else invested mad money, they feel like they just wasted their time. So obviously something's going to happen to him. Not that I'm saying they killed him or anything, but you got to use your mind and common sense. So that's why I'm saying is I don't see how the country could change if they can easily buy out presidents and government officials to do what they want to do. And then they're paying, these gang members, a lot of money to kill people if their businesses get too big. Like I have a generator business in Haiti, but it's not under my name, because I don't want anyone come attacking me, you know. And I've had a friend who had a market in Lilgan, and his market was getting pretty big, yo. He was like moving a lot of stuff, and he had 2 attempts on his life. And I remember he told me that, you know, he said, I'll say that he said Regional Bulos is trying to kill him. The first attempt, you know, was unsuccessful, and the second attempt, he died. I told him that he needs to hire security guards to put them at his business. But he's one of those people that believes in voodoo and thinks voodoo can, you know, I don't know, but if he had did what I told him to do, as far as like getting security guards to put as his at his residency and at his business, he wouldn't have got killed.
All right, so let me jump in. Let me jump in, John. I don't want to devolve it from a show becoming just conspiracy theories-ish and anecdotal. So thank you for that. I'm just going to take you off air, and I'll respond to some of that. Thanks, John, for coming in from your perspective. Appreciate you. So John Doe gave some interesting perspectives. I think two of the premises, of course, really important is, again, you know, when you have interest of folks who aren't necessarily for the country but for themselves, how do you move forward? Now it's not apples or oranges. I think I've always expressed this, that, you know, the bourgeoisie in Haiti aren't unique in how they behave. They aren't unique in the sense that they're in it for themselves. I don't know the bourgeoisie of any country who aren't self-interested, that do not behave for the interest of themselves, right? I mean, look, when you look in America and you see the political action groups, PACs, right? What are PACs? PACs are, you know, corporations, i.e. run by very wealthy people, you know, America's bourgeoisie, who legally, and that's the difference, you know, I think, you know, the beauty of America is there isn't corruption because corruption is legal. I would say that again. America in the developed world doesn't have corruption because corruption is legal, meaning they've made vehicles and legal structures in place to where money can be funneled directly to politics within the confines of the law, right? Whereas Haiti doesn't have those confines that allows money to funnel from those with it to politics. And you have these unofficial, dangerous channels, ultimately, that they use to get into and do these things, right? And I've expressed this, that what Haiti needs is, you know, ways to rein in these folks in a legally constructive manner. Right? In America, we have tax incentives, PACs, and we have these ways. At least we can keep track of the money in there, and not necessarily because they're gonna listen. It's just like drugs, right? People are gonna consume drugs, right? So the question now becomes, how can we have folks consume drugs in a way that's safe and doesn't have such a negative ripple effect to the society? And I think in Haiti, we have to think about that as well. How will we get these folks to conduct themselves in a manner that isn't deleterious to the society as a whole? Because I can tell you right now, you know, because a lot of places where, I'm not saying John Doe was this, but a lot of folks who usually are in the line of thinking of John Doe usually go towards the direction of, you know, we need to kill them all. We need to get them to leave. We need to exile them all. Like they're, you know, at the end result is they go. They ain't going nowhere. they ain't going nowhere. All right. So if we understand they're not going anywhere, right? The next question is, how then do we work within those confines? And I just gave you what that answer is. That answer is we need to create avenues where these folks are still serving their interest, but also serving the interests of Haiti as well. And how does that start? It starts with us. It starts with us in the diaspora, within the country, first off, coming together. Because remember, that's the most dangerous thing to any bourgeois anywhere in the world. In America, it's really easy to keep the bourgeois to stay in power because it's black and white, literally. You know, it's race. Oh no, don't trust the black people. You know, don't trust the Latinos. You know, they're this. So it's a very racially charged environment that keeps us from working together in America, right? In Haiti, what blows my mind is the only thing keeping us from working with each other is us. Is us. That's it. There's nothing else keeping us from being successful other than 20 years of our parents telling us Haiti is trash, Haiti is terrible. Our parents and the group we're in, that you can't trust other Haitians, right? Haitians will fly in and voodoo will happen to you, right? Stay away from other Haitians are not to be trusted. That's what the baffling thing. Even I'm slow to pick up the phone from my dad, because I know when he calls, he's giving me some negativity when it comes to Haiti, and I don't want to hear it. It's fatiguing to this day. Like, I've been doing SeeJeanty and showing a different image of the country for years, but I still have close family members calling me and telling me what they've just heard about the negative side of Haiti, and Haitians in particular, how other Haitians, particularly of my social tier, are the worst, right? And so that's where we are. For those who are listening to John Doe, and he's made valid points, but the solution is we have to start working together, and that's the first prerequisite to any change. And so until we can start doing that, nothing is going to change. All right. But thanks for John Doe. Thanks, John Doe, for giving that perspective, coming on air and voicing that. Let me bring in someone else here. I think this is number 3. I'm looking at the time. I don't know. I may do another. Let's do 2 or 3 more. The time's kind of ticking, but this is kind of fun. So let's bring someone else on air. By the way, let's keep the questions brief, just so I can have really a chance to get to 10 people. Let's keep the questions brief, and let's keep the follow-up even more brief. Like, if there's anything else, preferably you don't say anything else, just get off. But if you are going to say something, just keep it, after I speak, just keep it hyper brief, because I get you talking means you're taking away from someone else asking a point that we all could gain from. Okay, so let me bring someone else up. I have someone called live. Nope, it's buffering. Nope. Okay, all right. So it's buffering. Let's bring on Al. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yes, man.
Hey, how you doing, brother?
Doing good. Happy to have you. What's your question, brother?
Yes, so we know there's violence everywhere. There's a bunch of violence in, the U.S. I'm from Boston. I grew up in the projects growing up. So I'm used to violence, and I'm ready to take risks. So I always wanted to go to Haiti and invest. But then you always hear from family that, Haiti's unsafe, just like you were just saying. And then, I've traveled to the DR. I actually spoke to Haitians that fled Haiti, and they're always saying, you sound crazy for wanting to go to Haiti and things like that. So I want to know, I already know kind of your perspective, but more of like your experience, because you're there on the ground. How are you able to invest and feel safe enough to stay there? Because you're there more than most of us that are here in America at the moment. Like, what is your experience, and how can someone that against their family's wishes could go to Haiti and safely invest? And of course, it's going to be a risk, and nothing's 100% safe. But what is your take on that?
No, so great question, Al, and I appreciate you asking that. And the reality is that some folks will have more difficult starting points in their engagement in Haiti than others. Because let's be honest, when especially the exodus around the 90s, and Ice-T left. I don't know anything about you, AL, so I'm not speaking to you. I'm kind of speaking just in general, right? A lot of us, and I'm part of that 90s who left, right? I'm speaking certainly about myself. A lot of our families didn't come from wealth. A lot of our families came from the countryside, did a very short pit stop in Port-au-Prince, and then immediately left the country. And so, and a lot of us didn't, a lot of our folks' parents didn't finish school, and a lot of us didn't have native connections here that would have put us in a good situation when we wanted to return, right? Because when it comes to business, I mean, listen, we're living in a capitalistic society, and wealth begets wealth. You know, the myth of meritocracy. You know, don't get me wrong. Yes, working hard. You know, believing optimistically about, you know, where we can get to. That is an important prerequisite to any potentiality of being successful. But when you look at the numbers and you look at who gains wealth in our world that we live in, there is no doubt in this fact that those who are born with resources, if they decide to implement the same work ethic that we have, they get to go a lot farther than we do. And I say this because when you're trying to engage in Haiti, and you know every one of your family members are in abject poverty. You know, everyone's doing that. I'm saying, maybe a few of them are, you know, tap drivers, you know, and they're living in conditions that wouldn't help facilitate you if you were to transition. Because at the end of the day, you know, your first go-to is your family. You know, when you're trying to transition back or do things in Haiti, your first go-to. And if that family isn't in a stable place in the sense that they can give you a sense of security. If you come in and, you know, you're in the middle of a bidonville yourself, where and bidonvilles are traditionally unsafe. I mean, statistically, there isn't much crime in Haiti, but the crime that happens, they happen in bidonvilles. Okay, bidonvilles are, for those who don't know, popular areas in the country. You know, popular, the mass of a lot of people, and there's very little security, very little public investment infrastructure. You know, it's hard for you to, like, how do you engage, right? I share this, you know, folks who've been following long enough know that, you know, I had a degree of fortune in the sense that I sure as heck go coming from a wealthy family, but at the same time too, my family here in Haiti, they're not in that abjectness that I talked about. I mean, heck, I'm not too far from a bidonville myself. I'm not in a walled fortress with armed security. You know, I live in a regular area that's as close as middle class as you can get to in Haiti, given we have such a relatively small middle class. But that family, for example, when I first moved in, my close cousin of mine recently had finished building a home, which in fact she had done in a way where it's like basically townhomes. It was like a few units put together. She lived in the primary one, and I lived in a unit right next to her. See, so that's not something that someone in abject poverty or a family in abject poverty could benefit from, and that gave me a leg up to not necessarily not have to search for a place, right? And gave me a slightly quicker run in the game. I always acknowledge that too. Anyone who will sit in front of you and say they made it 100% on their own, they're full of shit. Excuse my language. I haven't cursed yet. See, I cursed there because I feel so strongly about it. They're lying to you. Right? Everyone who's gotten anywhere, it's been a cross section of government assisting them. It's a cross section of their family assisting them. It's a cross section of their friends and network assisting them. Right. So I'm building all that up to go to where the solution is. And the solution is something I've always expressed. Anyone who ever asks, Chris, I want to engage in Haiti. How do I do it? And I always say, what you need to do is you do it slowly. You go to Haiti over a long period of time. It took me, for example, I did it over a year, but you know, I had a basicness of Creole. I was always engaged in my culture, but if you were disengaged with your culture, it may take you 5 years. But you engage, and you engage slowly. You engage with the goal of networking and meeting people. Because again, if you don't have a family that can help facilitate you, then you need to learn to build a network, learn to build friends that you trust and trust only happens over time after you get a sense to see who they are, see them in different situations, different scenarios, really stress test that person, that relationship until you can feel in a good percentage of time that you're safe. Okay. And then using that network that you build out over 5 years or so, then you say, okay, all right, I think I'm ready now. And that would allow you to ensure that when you move in, and plus over 5 years, right? 5 years is a little excessive maybe, but I'm just going to the very extreme, maybe 1 or 2 years, but consistently going back. I'm talking about at least once a month, once every other month, for a few days, for a week, etc. over that time, you get to find out where are the safe areas, where are the areas I need to avoid, where are the places, where are the homes I can rent out for a decent price that maybe I'm going to feel more safe because it has security, and I buy a car, and you do different things to structure yourself to be independent, to be safe, to move around safely. That's number one. Even before you think about engaging in business, you have to think about how do I engage as an individual in this country, right? And that happens over time. And then finally, when you've gotten all that sorted, then you can start thinking about business, right? Because that's the first folks usually jump in and say, I want to do business and then figure out how to live. No, I figure out how to live, then I do my business, right? And that's the easy part. Honestly, once you've done all that hard work in terms of building a network, re-engage yourself in the culture, re-understand who you are, that other part comes easy of actually executing the business, because now you can depend on that network to help you with that business, and it amplifies your success. So in effect, you become a bourgeoisie yourself, because what helps the bourgeoisie in Haiti is that they're here in the country, they have a very large network of people to help them, right? And they get things done based off who they are and the name they built for themselves, right? And the trust they've garnered over the years that they've been in the country. And basically, that's what you've garnered for yourself, right? You've built in that blanket, right? Because the big disconnect, the big problem with so many people is they think they can just come in, open the door. Hey guys, I'm Diaspora and I'm here to business. And then they're shocked that they're not well accepted. They're shocked that their business fails. That's just not human beings. It's not Haitians, man. Listen, I always say I've learned everything I need to know about human society in the lunch hall in high school, right? You have cliques. You go in the lunchroom. Where do you sit? You can't sit. Okay, you sit. Don't sit next to the jocks. Oh, nerds. Oh, careful. Maybe that is for you. Maybe you sit there. Oh, no, that's the chess club. Yo, they're real territory. They'll checkmate you, right? And so, guess what? 35 plus years old now. I haven't seen any change in how people behave from that high school mess hall, right? And so, effectively, what I'm consulting is you slowly grow your own clique, and that clique will help support your business interest and how you want to move the country. All right. And I hope that gives you a bit of confidence out in how to move forward. You can move forward. That's what I did. I'm, knock on wood, progressing. It can be done. If I can do it, anybody can do it. And one thing that I hope, if you've been watching SeeJeanty long enough, there's case study after case study after case study I've showed you Haitian Americans, folks who've come back, who found success. So whatever stories, for every one story of someone who's ringing in your ear about, oh, here's what happened, bro, I can give you 10 people who are successful. So please ignore that failure. Sorry, that person's a failure. They failed. They didn't do it the right way. Try to find people who are successful and emulate them. And that's how we win as society. That's how we win as individuals. Sounds good?
Thank you, bro, for sure. We're going to die trying.
For sure. Appreciate it, brother. No, hope we don't.
Right.
All right, bro. Peace.
Thanks, brother.
Yep. Thanks, Al. I'm going to bring in Haiti Into Heaven on screen. Haiti Into Heaven Faith. How are you doing, man?
Hi, John T. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well. What's your question?
Oh, great. I'm a Haitian American that's interested in uplifting the poor in Haiti, especially those who need it the most. At one point, I was working with and donating to someone in Haiti that has been helping the poor. You actually know this person, but I'm not going to say their name, but I was communicating with this person, and I talked to them about a certain Hollywood celebrity that has a nonprofit organization for helping Haiti. And this celebrity was even being interviewed by Anderson Cooper on CNBC or something like that. And there was a visual presentation of all the work that this celebrity's nonprofit organization had done. But when I asked this person in Haiti about it, they told me that they couldn't even smell the work that this celebrity's organization had done in Haiti. So after hearing that, I'm thinking, can you really trust what these charities tell you and show you? And with all these charities that are supposedly helping Haiti, why is it not being seen or really making an impact Is it worth donating and trusting a charity, or should I start my own charity and try to help the people directly?
Great question. Great question. Haiti and the Heaven Faith. Whew, man, that's a deep question. You know why it's deep? Because I've recently had an issue with someone who has a reputation. I mean, even in that person's name, they have a very amicable name, right? That you hear that, and then you're like, oh, this person has to be a good person, given this is their name. But yet, in private, they are quick to send vicious messages by WhatsApp and take things to a very inappropriate level, right? And while saying that, hey, you telling the truth about who I am is taking out my pocket. It's taking out of, because it's a hustle for them. It's what it is. It's nothing more than a hustle. It's because they're saying they're here for the people. They're here to help kids and But in their moment of anger, they express the truth that they, are in it just because you're taking money out of my pocket. That's what the expression was. Excuse me. Yeah, again, okay, there we go. Right, and so what's that? I lied. Bear with me here. I got a ghetto rig here that has this lighting up. Okay. See, this is live. You can't pause. If I can pause. Bear with me. Okay. That should hold. Maybe. All right. We'll see. And so why it's shocking for me and why it hits home is because, I believe this person. I believe this person was in it for what the person said they were in it for, in it for the kids, and different things they're a part of, but just to show you that the person ultimately wasn't. At least not to the extent that they said they were. And so that really is disappointing because I certainly knew that, that's a certain reality to how things work in the country. And it certainly put into doubt a lot of things you're expressing, because you're putting into words a lot of things that I was thinking very recently. Who can you trust? How can you trust certain people, right? And the thing is, the reality is, it's hard to know who to trust. It's a part of it is, you kind of have to just assume someone's innocent until proven guilty, or at least there's enough folks saying that the person isn't innocent and for you to unplug. I think as Haitians, systematic to what I was just talking about with Al, our person before, was like, how do they engage in the country and how to trust move forward. I think we have to, we have to start at a place where we trust first and maybe allow ourselves to be burnt a time or two, then start on the other side to say, hey, I'm not going to trust anyone. Because that's an inverse that we don't want to be either, right? And that's ironically a philosophy I've held long before I even moved to Haiti. That's one reason why, the only way you ever really see me mad, potentially violently mad, is if I feel that you're putting a characterization on me before I even say a word. Like allow me to say a word, and then you can judge me. But if I even said a word to you, and you're judging me on something in your mind of who I am, I will get violently defensive, because that is so antithetical to who I am. Because inherently, and I've been burnt a lot of times. I talk to my wife all the time. I come home and I'm really in a mood because I've been burnt, right? But I'd rather be on that side, because I've met a lot of relationships, a lot of good relationships I'm still a part of today, that I started with trust, and that trust was never burnt. Trust has only been built on, right? And so I think fundamentally start there, right? Secondly, ask around. Every time you meet someone new who potentially may give you an insight of that person or charity, that's one thing I've actually slowly have had to build into myself, which is I've slowly indeed started to believe what I hear. It's one thing to be naive and give people the benefit of the doubt, carte blanche. But if enough people say, yo, Chris, be careful. They're not even telling you the reason, but they'll just say, hey, oh, you working with who? Be careful. A lot of times they won't give you more, but if 2 or 3 people give you that, okay, well, I'm going to be careful. And I've learned that recently, right? And so, 1 second. Let me see how this lighting looks. Oof, that is a sharp, nasty light. In any case, I'll leave that light the way it is because I have a cover here that's not wanting to stick. And but finally, should you start your own charity? And I think your charity that you start should not be based off of, that reason. Your charity should be based off of the good it can do, and if there's a hole in the market that you see other charities aren't doing. Thank you, AS. If you see the charity that someone else isn't doing, and it's a group of people in need, start the charity for that reason. But I wouldn't start it just because of the reasons you stated. The reasons why you start something matter, right? And so make sure, even if it's something that already being provided, maybe you can provide it in a much more genuine manner. I'm a big fan of charities that don't give people fish, but give people how to fish, right? Who build economic empowerment as part of their charity, right? Who, instead of buying pencils, maybe they work with artisans that are making pencils and buy from them and support them, right? And so there's something out there that you can input a better model of sustainability, right? So go in it for that reason, right? But don't necessarily go in for those reasons. So let me stop there. I think did I get a good amount of that, of your bullet points?
Yes, you definitely gave a lot of insight. I had one part of the question where I asked you, are these organizations really making an impact on the poor? Do you see it?
I think for so long, so many of these organizations were running with the intent to do good without necessarily looking for empirical evidence that were they actually doing good. Some of them aren't doing good because the economics of the charity ecosystem, as you're saying, inherently isn't really for the people, right? Inherently, right? And that's just something that people are realizing, and that's why it's important that for giving, it's important to ask, for aspects of what they're doing to empower, right? For example, never accept a charity that flies volunteers from outside the country into the country, okay, to paint and to do labor where they could have hired someone locally, or even, gotten those people to volunteer their time. Because whenever people locally give sweat equity, they care about it more, they feel more accomplished, and it helps much more from a societal perspective. And I think I like the direction of a lot of, within the past 2 years, and it's very relatively recent. I think the first book that really, institutionally did a good job of putting those thoughts in the paper was Daniel Jean-Louis' From Aid to Trade, which was really a fantastically written book that a lot of the, I really suggest you take a look at that book, Daniel Jean-Louis, From Aid to Trade. Write that down. Do check that book. It's on Amazon. You can get it. And it really focused on how do you structure these charities and NGOs to really be about much more long-term sustainability. And I think those organizations that have been doing that, I can say, I can see the good they're doing, because when I visit these workshops, when I visit these artisans, they're employed for the first time consistently. They're growing, they're providing jobs. I can see the sense of purpose within these people, rather than just giving stuff. They're working for it, sense of pride, that they have. A lot of these places I visited, right? And so I can say recently, those following those economic empowerment strategies are seeing results. We'll see over a much longer period, maybe 10 years. Ask me that question again. We'll see how they've done, and I feel confident if we compare those entities that use those strategies versus the ones that I'm sure you're, are more familiar with. Those who are just, hey, Haiti's poor, give us money, and we'll go out and give them something. You'll see that they've done a lot more in 10 years than these current institutions have done in 2030.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your insight. I just want to say that you have such great energy. You seem like a genuine person. I love that you're in Haiti and you're able to give this valuable information. I hope Haiti is filled with more people like you. I would like to see you advance your channel and whatever you're doing so that you can bring us even more valuable information. And I really just want Haiti to be turned into heaven and that to be the focus of people's faith, because it seems like a lot of people are prophesying doom. Like, oh, it's going to be more chaos now. It's going to be this. Haiti will never be this. Haiti will never be that. When Jesus in the scripture says, when you pray that on earth as in heaven. Pray in Haiti as in heaven. That needs to be our focus. That needs to be what we're prophesying, what we're praying, so we can let God manifest that through us. So that's why my name is Haiti into Heaven Faith. So thank you very much for your time.
No problem. Thank you so much, Heavy. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
That was a great end commentary there by Haiti Faith. And thanks for the kind words. They mean a lot. Because at the end of the day, I really strive to be a genuine person. I really strive to, be the same person online. I really try to be the same person offline. And so thank you for that. And we'll see. We'll keep pushing, keep working. We'll still keep doing what we can for this channel. And we'll hopefully continue to encourage Haitians, both natively in the country and the diaspora, to move forward and do stuff, great stuff. And I think we'll make this next person my last one, my last person. This was a great experiment. I think this was really nice to hear the voices of people. And I think we'll do this again sometime soon. But let's bring the last person on stage. We have Marie. Hello, Marie.
Hello.
How are you?
If you can hear me.
I can hear you.
Yes. I really wanted to take part in the everything discussion, whatever you want to call it, because I've been following everything about Haiti for a little while, because I've got like a mixed heritage. I'm from Martinique. I live in Paris. I'm currently living in the UK, and I really wanted to move to Haiti. And all my sisters, they were saying, oh, you're crazy, you cannot go there. And I said, yes, it's a beautiful country. You've got so many resources, and people, they should really bond together and try to make the country feel better. And I was like, because when I was studying history at school and everything, and I was like, Toussaint Louverture, he did a great thing, to try to fight, for the country. And people, we are not really listening to the basic things that we need to do. It's just, I don't know, because I've got French heritage, Caribbean heritage, Spanish heritage, and it's always the same thing. And I don't know if everybody, they will kind of understand what I'm saying. It's always neg contre neg. We don't do things together. We are always fighting each other, and that's not what I want for Haiti. And I feel I'm not Asian, but I feel Asian, because it's just everything that's happening in that country, wherever it's a earthquake or a storm or anything. And I'm thinking Asian people, they are so resilient. And I think if everyone is trying to unite together, it could be really, really, really beautiful. And I still want to move to Haiti. So my question is why we cannot be together. It seems we are still having that's those sought from the master back in the days, after 4 centuries of, slavery and everything, that, we have to be like the master, have
Great,
to
great
have the
question.
power.
Great
Put
question. Great
people
commentary.
down. Yeah.
Great question, Ivy, and I can answer that. The fact that you alluded to, our recent heritage, being, the fact that Haiti was a slave state, and the people were slaves in different degrees. You have Toussaint, who, the history of Toussaint. He was in an elevated position despite for a long time being a slave, right? And it's even Christophe was in an elevated position, though he was a slave. And then you have a lot of folks who were not in an elevated position as slaves. And if you know anything about the history of how we became into slavemanship, you have different inherent cultures of Haitian, of Africans who back in Africa potentially were indeed rivals. Were from different tribes and had their own cultures, and some of those cultures, they were warring with each other. That's how they got captured, a lot of them, and ultimately then sold off to slavery. And so I think from our very recent heritage, and I always say it like that, our recent heritage, because we as African people have histories as long as humanity. We should not allow ourselves to be restricted as if we as Black people started during slavery. I mean, if you watch Hollywood and probably they think we started, Black people were born out of slavery. No, we have histories that predate Europe, that go, and we are a very social entity. For a long time, we didn't write our history. Our history very oral. That's why some of it has become lost to us, right? But understand, we are creatures of culture, of society, of history, of grandness. The pyramids were built by Black peoples, right? The first skyscrapers, the first grand engineering that we can easily point to. We had others, pyramids. That's an example. And so the fact that our recent heritage is born out of this very nasty, traumatizing event that inherently brought folks that were of different places together. That's a tough starting point. I think if we were all taken as slaves from one place, for example, the Jews out of Egypt, at the end of the day, the Jews were still Jewish people, one people. But I always allude to this when answering this question to say, remember, the Bible was I'm not too into the Bible like that, but there's certain stories that stick with me, and the fact that the Israelites were lost in the desert for 40 years. And to me, for example, the story of the who was the disciple that was in the belly of the whale? Maybe you can help me out. He was in the belly of the whale was it Joseph? Joe? I'm sure someone in the comments will drop the name. But there's a story of the fella that was in the belly of the whale for X amount of days, right? And I always looked at as allegory, as illusion. Jonas, thank you. Comments. Jonas, right? Jonas. And I always looked at it as illusion, say, well, heck, science, I still haven't seen, that scientifically. So I'm gonna take that story as illusion to say, this person was lost, and that's how he got out of it. And this is just an allusion to him being lost deep, in a deep place, right? And I look at the story of the Israelites being after a period of slavery for 40 years, they were lost in a desert. And I kind of think of Haiti in the same way. Like, this is our 40 years. We're in a desert. We're lost as a people, right? Yes. And we're wandering, right? But guess what? Ironically, our promised land, we're not trying to find it. We're already here. This half of Hispaniola is our promised land. Whenever we get out the Mento desert that we are in,
yes,
we're gonna be in the land that God has provided for us, right? It's harder for us, as I just alluded to, because we're not one people, right? So that's why it hasn't been just 40 years. It may be 400 years for us to finally figure out we should not be fighting each other. It shouldn't be the Noirs versus the Mulats, right?
Yes.
You know, it should, in fact, we need to live, we need, you know, love or hate this other, you know. But he said there's only one people on this side of the island, and it's black people. We're all, doesn't matter if you're light skinned or dark skinned, we are all black people.
Yes.
Number one. And our motto is the union fait la force, unity breeds strength. I mean, these are great pillars to build not only our society on, but our culture on, our ethos on, and really try to move forward and embody. Right? We have those pillars as starting points for us. And most people want to say, oh, our starting pillar was voodoo. And this is why we're here because of the dark magic and But our starting pillar is also everything I just said. If you actually hone in and focus on those starting pillars and make that the story, the collective story of ourselves, because at the end of the day, America is where it's at because it has a collective story that it is the land of opportunity and American ingenuity and American entrepreneurism and all those things, the American way and the can-do spirit, all those enter into the ethos of what it is to be in America. And you can't help but be that too when you're in America. You can't just help, no matter where you came culturally, when you're American, you just feel hopeful. You feel like, I might be able to do something with myself too. We need to ourselves instill that same sort of our brand of optimism, our brand of unity, our brand of persevering, because we have it. We can, our story, building the top world powers to be where we are. We have that foundational story that we should be able to build each other and work forward. But for some reason, we haven't allowed ourselves to. For some reason, we've allowed our parents, and Haitians in particular, allow our parents to dictate to us what it means to be Haitian, what it means, how to engage with our people. We've allowed Vice News and CNN and all these places to paint a dark picture of ourselves, right? And the folks who've done it wrong, who failed, come back and now become disciples of a negative Haiti. Meanwhile, the people, here's the thing, guys, the people who've been successful in Haiti, the English, for every one person I can find 10 that have been successful, they're in Haiti being successful. Not talking to you, they're being successful. The one that failed, the one out of every 10 that's failed, is back in America, being as loud as 10 people saying Haiti isn't viable for anyone. Don't listen to the 1 out of 10 that's failed. Listen to 9 out of 10 that have found a way. Try to find them, try to listen to them, try to connect with them, work together. And I think, Mari, to end what I'm saying, and to really get home to your question, I think a lot of us have been working together. A lot of us can work together. I think we need to get those stories of working together out. That's why I do hope you're subscribed to SeeJeanty. I think a lot of the things I already produced show that collaborativeness of a lot of folks who are working together. There's more positive stories happening on the ground in Haiti. I mean, that's one thing that drives me nuts. We have Vice News who flies into our country and interviews a gang leader. Meanwhile, I have listen, if Vice News were to message me and say, Chris, do you have someone I can interview and talk to about? I have 100 people. Tell me the industry that you want. Who do you want to talk to? I'll give you the info, right? And I have, fortunately, I've had the relationship with some good media, sort of media entities, where I have that relationship where they do call me, they do message me, and I have stories I can, I'm not someone who likes to take credit or, but I know that I've connected people who are doing great work in Haiti with media entities and around the world to get their stories out, because that's what we need. We need more of that, right? I have my platform that does it, and I've been so blessed to be able to connect these incredible people who are doing great work to other larger, more traditional media places to tell their stories as well. And I think as long as we keep doing that, Marie, the momentum to get this country to a better place, it will happen. It will happen because we're doing it together, and we'll finally be in the Haiti that we deserve, Haiti that works for everyone.
Yes, I mean, all the people, they need to basically to be together, even if it's only like 10%. But what's 10% of the bourgeoisie who's leading the country when we got 12 million Haitian there? So,
Exactly.
and as you said it before, l'union fait la force. We should be together because Haiti is a beautiful country. It's rich. You got resources, and sure, that should change. We should be la perle des Antilles, basically, because Haiti is everything.
Boom. Perfect. Marie, thank you so much for getting on and speaking with us.
Thank you.
And your perspective. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie. Thank you. So guys, there was a very interesting experiment. I like this. This was cool. I may incorporate this into Haiti Biz News traditionally. Maybe it won't be, I think I got 6 or 7 people this time. Maybe it'll just be 1 or 2 or max 3 people, maybe. Bring them on air and give their side. I think I'll certainly try to do this again. This was fun. It was great hearing from you guys, seeing you guys, and having those great questions answered. And as I exit, I just want to, at the top of the hour, I didn't drop the usual links that I give, but I want, as we're exiting, I do want to do the usual promotional stuff that keeps us going and let folks know that we're not just here during these lives. We're here really 24/7, right? First and foremost, we do have a Creole channel, you know, pour tout le monde qui nécessité que nous fait bail ça en créole, et nous avons un canal qui est totalement en créole. Nous avons 700 abonnés et tant pis mes plus, mes amis 1000 moun, et so à l'autre bois, click subscribe, follow. All right. Secondly, do go and check out. I have a book out. I came out with a book earlier this year, 101 Ways to Make Money in Haiti. Lucrative business ideas, insightful success stories, interesting business opportunities for visionary entrepreneurs. And I did this again. I ain't trying to be, you know, who's that woman that's like a billionaire now? Harry Potter, J.K. Rowling. I ain't trying to be J.K. Rowling, but I am trying to build places where even when I'm not on air talking to you guys can keep getting empowerment, keep getting perspective, keep getting insight. And I wrote that book for that. And also, the funds do help with what we got going on here with SeeJeanty Media, keep the lights on, you know, grow the platform, move it in the direction it needs to, all right? And so I'm going to click that. I'm going to spend, you know, there, SeeJeanty.com shop. We have it on ebook, and we also have it in, you know, hardcover. Right now, it's only on Amazon. I do have the Creole version fully translated. I just haven't had time to take it to a proper editor to actually look it over. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna do an all call real quick. I'll do an all call. If anyone has the capacity to potentially be a Creole editor, to move this book the Creole version of that book one step closer, make sure to send me a message at SeeJeanty Share. You know, because I've been so busy. I'm allowing me to procrastinate on that because I need a Creole editor to get this book out the door. So let me toss that out there, FYI. But for folks who are wondering when the Creole version is coming out, it's coming out whenever I can find a Creole editor. I make time to actually look for one. But nonetheless, the English version of that book is out. And again, what's so interesting about that book is it provides, you know, the big thing is it provides for every idea, it provides real people who are doing that a version or iteration of that idea. Right. So it's not just like me just sitting and typing, you know, talking on my butt, but it's look, here's someone doing it, it's finding success. So check out that book, right? For those who want to continue the conversation and continue to be able to share very interesting stories, real cool happenings, real cool things that are happening in the country on Haiti, you know, let's not keep blaming that Vice News doesn't give us a fair shot or CNN doesn't give us a fair shot. We have to encourage and share these stories, right? So they get the views, so they get the positive feedback. So go to SeeJeanty Action Group, go follow, become part of that group, follow that group, and whatever positive, whatever thing you see that's encouraging or gives us a bit of souffle about what's happening in Haiti, please drop it in that channel, and let's keep the conversation going. And finally, the WhatsApp group is a space that, let me drop the link for the WhatsApp group, is a space that, I'm in. A lot of folks who DM me, who ask me questions, minus this new thing I'm doing now, I don't have time to respond. I'm not going to do it. I can show you my DMs now, even especially recently. They were bad before, but I've gotten to a degree of variability now, and they're even worse, even worse now. So I'm certainly don't have the time now. Remember, I run several businesses, and I just don't have, as much as I want to, I don't have the time. But I still wanted a space where I can connect, and the WhatsApp group is a space where I'm in. I try to respond once a day to the conversations happening, but we have some of the extremely productive, outgoing people I've never had the chance to meet within that WhatsApp group. Places I'm so happy that exists to allow these proactive, productive folks to be a part of the conversations that happen there. And so for a stipend, $20 a month, you're providing. It's a Patreon basically. You're providing my staff. I have 2 excellent videographers. I've seen the comments. I'm seeing people saying, "Oh, Chris, you're doing such a better job. These videos look so great now." Guess what? You guys are a part of it because the WhatsApp group and the $20 that the folks are providing are going to provide their salaries and improving their capacities and their skill sets, right? And so you guys are a part of that, right? So not only are you getting something out of in return, but you're also gaining. You're also gaining, in terms of being in that ecosystem, being in that network. Remember, I said one of the things you need to be successful is a network. You plug into an instant network when you're part of the WhatsApp group. So do check that out. I look forward to seeing a new person or 2 in there and being a part of it. And guys, we'll be back next Sunday for a traditional show. The show again was focused on the assassination of Jovenel Moise. We let out everything that we knew as updates happen, factual updates happen. We will share it at the top of the hour of our future monthly shows. So that's where we're at. That's where we are, guys. If you like what we got going on here, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like this video, share it. Make sure you share it. Really important. And we'll be back. We'll be back. This is what we do here at SeeJeanty. We're about having these sort of conversations, these grown-up conversations that we're not trying to hide. Haiti's a tough place. Haiti's a tough place, but there's a way forward. There's a way forward. And we need to focus on that way forward, not everything else. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Those who are here for the full 3 hours, you're the real MVP, not me. Talking is easy. Talking is just talking. You lose track of time when you're talking. The fact that you were listening for 3 hours, my friends, you are the real MVP of SeeJeanty. All right, guys, I'm out. We'll be back at it again when we're back at it again. Peace.